Hello, everyone, and welcome to Aaron Shack Politics. We are going to discuss several things on the show today, from what's happening in Gaza to some of Donald Trump's and J.D. Vance's crazy policies and comments and responses, what's happening in Lebanon, the West Bank, and all over the U.S. We're going to talk about some real raw topics today, so I'm really excited to dive in with some of this with you. And yes, I'm still rocking the bandages on my arm here from the carpal tunnel surgery. Hopefully, at my appointment, we'll see what if this has healed me and I can get back to like proper work at some point here. But yeah, I'm still in recovery. Still got the sling and my little cushioned block that I can also put my arm in case this gets a little uncomfortable today while we're recording. But first, we have a man here in Gaza. He's a kindergarten. He owns it. He's a kindergarten teacher, and it apparently he's saying that his kindergarten turned into an Israeli sniper nest that was used to drill holes in a wall to shoot at Palestinians during Israel's war on Gaza. So let me once again say here, this Palestinian man says his kindergarten was turned into an Israeli sniper nest that used drilled holes in a wall to shoot at Palestinians during Israel's war on Gaza. And of course, he has a bomb or the shell of a bomb in his hands. He says, I'm the owner of a kindergarten, Afad Rasul kindergarten. We had 100 children in this area. I was cleaning up weapons behind them, war remnants. The Israeli army violated the sanctity of the kindergarten and broke all of its things. Nothing remained from it, except for a few walls. They are still standing and up on the roof. They had destroyed the stairwell and drilled holes in the walls. They left holes for them to snipe and kill people. They target any moving objects. It seems like someone was hiding up there and drilled holes in a wall to snipe. Whatever is moving the target, I'm cleaning it up with simple tools, despite a cleanup requiring heavy equipment. But God willing, I will rebuild the house, renovate it, and live in it. Yeah, powerful. His resilience and the resilience of all Palestinian people to continue and to persevere during this crisis is incredibly powerful, and I don't think it really compares to any sort of analogy that I could try to make here. It really leaves you kind of speechless. It's absolutely insane. Next, I want to tell you about this article from CBS News about the Newark mayor who says businesses have been raided by ICE agents and multiple people were detained. Federal immigration agents raided a local establishment on Thursday. Mayor Ras Baraka said in a statement that Immigration Customs Enforcement agents detained multiple people, including United States citizens, a U.S. military veteran, and undocumented individuals. According to Baraka, the agents did not produce a warrant. So once again, kind of repeating a little bit of the same statement here. But the egregious act is a plain violation of the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which, if you don't know, it guarantees the right of people to be secure in their houses, persons, papers, effects, unreasonable searches, and seizures. Okay? He also says that Newark will not stand idly while people are being unlawfully terrorized. He says he'll be holding a press conference in alliance with partners ready and willing to defend and protect civil and human rights, with more details to come. Newark is also continued a so-called is considered a so-called sanctuary city. Spokesperson for ICE told CBS News New York in a statement late Thursday that it conducted a targeted enforcement operation at a work site today in Newark, New Jersey. They also said that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement may encounter U.S. citizens while conducting field work and may request identification to establish an individual's identity, as was the case during a targeted repeating the same thing. It's an active investigation. They don't want to discuss more. The owner of Ocean Seafood Depot, I'm not going to tell the location here. They don't have a court order. I didn't even ask. A couple of the guys didn't show their ID. 26 years in business. I've never seen anything like this. The owner said 3 people were taken into custody. Surveillance video showed what appeared to be federal immigration agents taking a man into custody outside the fish market. When asked whether the operation would deter other employees from coming into work on Friday, he responded, "Yes, exactly. That's the question. It's not really helping my business, obviously, or any business." Democratic Senators Cory Booker and Andy Kim of New Jersey said they were deeply concerned about the news of an ICE raid in Newark today. They said their offices have reached out to the Department of Homeland Security. Actions like this will sow fear in all our communities, and our broken immigration system requires solutions, not fear tactics, was their statement. President Trump has signed a slew of executive orders, and his administration has enacted policies designed to target illegal immigration. They include efforts to end birthright citizenship, which failed, suspend the nation's asylum system, and deploy troops to the border, which is a waste of taxpayer dollars. But more on that later, because honestly, he's been filling up these AC-130 planes, and it's the least efficient way to transport civilians or just people. That stuff is really more for like militaristic stuff, cargo and things like that. Although you can fit some soldiers, there are other and better planes, but Trump wants to show the military might, and he wants to show military planes in the air. It's all about public perception, okay? So it's way more expensive to do that and to fly those big, heavy planes and waste a lot of gasoline on that than it is to fuel other types of planes, okay? ICE also says it made 538 arrests so far. Representative Nicole Maliotakis says those include arrests of New York of an MS-13 gang member, sex offender, and a drunk driver. Okay, well, no one's upset about criminals being taken, but I think when there's collateral damage of, civilians, children, military veterans, and, some of those undocumented individuals are fleeing a desperate situation. They're seeking asylum in our country. Not everyone is going about it the right way, like the way they should, like, the legal process. But I think that needs to be made better rather than simply shut down. So we'll keep an eye on that and update you as it goes. The immigration system is really a disaster here. So next, we're going to go over to Gaza. This is from Rafah in Gaza, and the only words I can think of are genocide and Holocaust, and this is what the West considers self-defense, is this image right here. So let's take a look. You can see people, and it's literally nothing but ruined buildings, very few walls standing here and there. This is the rubble of people's lives. Like, you can see blood, you can see like clothing, what's left of their homes, and people are walking back to like see what's left of their homes, and it's like it'll be like a jacket or something, like there's just, or like a pair of shoes, like there is no justification for this amount of just outright destruction and murder. This is a modern day Holocaust, and it's very clear. The amount of civilian death in order to target a very small number of Hamas operatives and killing, ambulance drivers, humanitarian aid workers, burning the humanitarian aid that comes in. It's just insane here. What life people have to go back to. And we're going to talk more on that later in the show. We want to talk about Trump's statements on how he believes Gaza should be ethnically cleansed and that the people should just leave. Yeah, look at that. There's UN vehicles all totally like destroyed. Just complete ruin. It's hard to look at, but it's really good to have this drone footage because people need to see this. Because part of it is you only see clips and you only see the perspective that potentially mainstream media outlets are going to show you. Like, for example, CNN, Fox News, your local news. They might just say, oh, well, Benjamin Netanyahu said this. And then they'll have a quote. And they might show like something. They'll show like IDF soldiers marching and blasting off tanks and missiles and stuff. Or they'll show like the very small amount of missiles that come into like Israel and get shot down by the Iron Dome. But they don't show you this. They don't show the Palestinian side and what these people go through, the amount of death, destruction, genocide that these people are going through, and the ethnic cleansing that is now going to enter the next stage. From Biden to Trump, this will continue. So whether it's Democrat or Republican, it's disappointing, it's disgusting, and we have to do better. We have to do something. This is journalist Abubakar Abed. He says, I was in Al-Buraish camp in central Gaza and went inside one of the demolished houses to inspect the carnage. I can't believe what I saw. Even the teddy bear didn't escape the Israeli attacks. And I'm going to let you all check out his reporting. He's really young, but
just look at this.
Very good.
Here inside one of the demolished houses in Al-Buraish refugee camp in central Gaza. Just look at the destruction. It's literally unimaginable. What I can see is just, look at this. Look at what Israel is doing and has done in Gaza. There's no edge, the kitchen.
There's nothing left. I mean, you can see through all of the buildings.
The sofas are ripped apart. The walls have collapsed. The washing machine, the chairs, everything here has been damaged by Israeli forces. And those,
Just barely see mirrors.
you probably can see,
Pots.
there is absolutely nothing. Here, a family was living in peace. And this is the Quran.
The Quran.
And a rug.
It looks like pages were torn out. The rug is there.
One of the bedrooms. Look at this. Look at people's belongings.
The bedroom, all the clothes, dressers. I mean, they destroy everything. Not just in bombings, but like they come in and they damage stuff.
Look at this.
Oh, you can hear the wall creak when he pushes it.
Photo for, I don't know if he's either killed or not.
Photo.
But he was living there, presumably. And other stuff for people who are forced to leave their house, and their house was then completely demolished. And just one of the mattresses, some toys. Here are some toys and some other devices. I mean, this is just, here is another bedroom. There's another bedroom here where nothing has escaped Israeli attacks. And I'm gonna get you back. This is only one house of Al-Buraish, inside Al-Buraish camp.
Yeah, you can see Al-Buraish.
Background, dozens of houses, buildings, 5-story buildings, 6-story buildings are completely obliterated. Look at this. Look at this. I'm going to the ground floor.
It could even be dangerous to go into these buildings. They could collapse.
The house have been hit, fiercely hit. Where people can go? Where people can go?
Where can people go, indeed? Yeah.
Where people can go? The walls have collapsed. Some cotton here of the toy. Just the toy here.
Oh, here's the teddy bear.
Look at what Israel has done. Look.
They cut its head off
This is
and
what
pulled
Israel
out
has
the
done.
stuffing. Like,
Even the
how
toy,
barbaric is
even
that
the
to just
teddy
take
bear-
that time to do that?
Teddy bear hasn't spared Israeli attacks. This is what Israel does. The fridge. It looks very new. Look.
Yeah, the
It's a
fridge
brand
looks
new
like
fridge.
basically brand new, and it somehow it
new.
survived. Like it's like a
It doesn't.
total modern
it doesn't
fridge.
seem to be used before.
Nothing in it.
It's not used.
Brand new.
Probably the owner of this house brought this fridge just a few moments before the war. Probably during this war, but Israel forced him to leave.
Oh, it's got a few dents on the side
Yes.
from all the
What
probably
is
all the
literally
gunfire and
that?
bombs.
Depicting the carnage, depicting what has happened is devastating, is mentally heartbreaking, is even just here a few of the books where people were studying. These books were also torn.
Educational books.
Look at this. Just look at this. Oh my god. I've lost words to describe.
Electrical cables, light
I've seen
fixtures.
Shoes. Just shoes of children, shoes of
Yeah, I mean that's all
women.
that's left to come back to is like the odd shoe or like a jacket or something like.
The sofas here. Everything has been hit. Every single thing has been hit. Has been hit here, sorry. Look at the destruction. I'm gonna stand before the house to show you how it really looks. Look at this. Look at this. This is
That's the whole house he was walking through. I mean, just seeing even what's left of the neighborhood, you know.
The scale of the destruction looks like here in central Gaza's Al-Braj camp, particularly in the northern parts. Oh my god, unbelievable.
Yeah, like he said, it's unbelievable. I don't know. We have a video. I always smile when I see a video from Bisan because I know her coverage is not only, sometimes it's full of despair and all that, but she is a bright light, a beacon of hope in this world and in this.
Hey everyone,
this
this
news.
is Sam from Gaza. I am still alive. It's the day 5 after the ceasefire announcement in Gaza Strip. And just an hour ago, the Israeli army targeted an apartment in Tel Sultan neighborhood in Rafah and killed 2 people who were cleaning their homes, cleaning their flat, literally after
Look
it
who's
was
violated the
partially
ceasefire
damaged
already.
after the Israeli invasion to Rafah. In
Several
a trial
times.
to get back and to end their displacement, to get back to Rafah, but they were targeted and killed. That's not the only casualty, actually, because other people were killed in Rafah. At the very first day, a person was sniped in Rafah. We lost also 2 people in Rafah because of unexploded bombs, Israeli bombs. So the thing is, everyone is thinking that the genocide is over, khalas, Gaza is free.
Khalas,
But
no.
the reality is, the Israeli tanks, the Israeli soldiers, the Israeli army are still in Gaza Strip. The targeting is still ongoing. Less, yeah, that's true, but it's still ongoing. 2 people were killed just an hour ago in their home in the west of Rafah, in Tel Sultan neighborhood, while cleaning their home. 2 people were killed. They were waiting for the ceasefire. They lived, they survived the ceasefire, and now they were killed. So this is a problem. Everyone is thinking, no, khalas, no war, okay, no
Yeah.
genocide. We are all the media is covering the return people witnessing the destruction of their homes for the first time,
Sure.
people grabbing their beloved ones from under the rubble after months of being trapped under the rubble. But no one is thinking enough about the ongoing targeting and about the existence of the Israeli army in Gaza Strip, and about also what is happening in the West Bank right now, which requires literally a lot of videos clarifying what is happening in the West Bank, how Israel moved the genocide from the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and how
it's jumped over.
The genocide is
It's ongoing. I mean, she's absolutely right about that. I'm always excited to see her videos, and I'm glad to see that she's always still alive. That's the sort of despair that I have with watching Palestinian journalists. Is I pray that we can see more of their important coverage, and also that they will continue to live and survive through this. So it's difficult, but it's admirable that she is still out there and reporting. All right, next I want to show you an image from Abu Bakr Abed. He says the smoke is where the Israeli squadrons are located. They're setting agricultural lands on fire before leaving in the next weeks. They have also shot at people while we were there. So yeah, you can see the bit of smoke there. And I mean, we've seen images of them, burning farmland, olive trees, and both in the West Bank and in Gaza, of destroying roads with bulldozers and destroying what's left of buildings just so people have absolutely nothing to come back to, that like everything's just crushed. And, even if you had belongings, like it's just going to be under so much rubble that it's going to be impossible to get to. And I just, it's such like a scumbag move to do something like that on your way out when you should be peacefully leaving and not stirring up more trouble and not leaving in a way that leaves the environment even worse than what you've already destroyed it beyond recognition. All right, here from the BBC, IDF said bombed apartments were a Hezbollah base, but most killed were actually civilians. And so let's take a look here. I'm going to read the article to you. Julia Ramadan was terrified the war between Israel and Hezbollah was escalating. She'd had a nightmare that her family home was being bombed. When she sent her brother a panicked voice note from her apartment in Beirut, they encouraged her to join him in Ain el-Delb, a sleepy village in southern Lebanon. It's safe here, he reassured her. Come stay safe with us until things calm down. Of course, we know that Lebanon was being aggressively bombed by the IDF. The IDF says, or actually here, Ashraf was confident that their family's apartment block would be a haven, so Julia joined him. The next day, on the 29th of September, it was subject to the conflict's deadliest single Israeli attack. Struck by Israeli missiles, the entire six-story building collapsed, killing 73 people. The IDF says the building was targeted because it was a Hezbollah terrorist command center, in quotes, and it eliminated, in quotes, a Hezbollah commander. It added that the overwhelming majority, in quotes, of those killed in the strike were, quote, confirmed to be terror operatives, unquote. But a BBC investigation verified the identity of 68 of the 73 people killed in the attack and uncovered evidence suggesting just 6 were linked to Hezbollah's military wing. None of those we identified appeared to hold senior rank. So, just getting a bunch of underlings, a bunch of like henchmen that like don't even matter or whatever, So, none of them held a senior rank. BBC's World Service also found that 62 were civilians, 23 of them children. So let's talk the numbers. 68 of 73 were killed, right? 62 of those 68 were civilians, 23 of them children, right? So if you need a visual aid, right here on screen, all these pictures, they boxed out that like 6 men were Hezbollah affiliated, which, you know, doesn't mean much, doesn't mean that they're high-ranking officials. Among the dead were babies a few months old. My God. Like New Kobisi in an apartment 2B in apartment 1C, school teacher Abir Halak was killed alongside her husband and 3 sons. 3 floors above, Amal Hakawati died along with 3 generations of her family. That's what's devastating. Is not only is it like someone dies in your family, but like it could be a whole wing or the whole tree. Like 3 generations, husband, children, 2 granddaughters. It's just absolutely insane. And as we read more here, Ashraf and Julia had always been close, sharing everything with each other. She was like a black box holding all my secrets, she says. On the afternoon 29th of September, the siblings had just returned home from handing out food to families who had fled the fighting. Hundreds of thousands of people in Lebanon had been displaced by the war. Ashraf was in the shower, and Julia was sitting in the living room with their father, helping him upload a video to social media. Their mother, Janan, was in the kitchen cleaning up. Then, without warning, they heard a deafening bang. The entire building shook, and a massive cloud of dust and smoke poured into their apartment. I shouted, "Julia, Julia," says Ashraf. She replied, "I'm here." I looked at my dad, who was struggling to get up from the sofa because of an existing injury to his leg, and saw my mother running toward the front door. Julia's nightmare was playing out in real life. Julia was hyperventilating, crying so hard on the sofa. I was trying to calm her down and told her we needed to get out. Then there was another attack. Video footage of the strike, shared online and verified by the BBC, reveals 4 Israeli missiles flying through the air towards the building. Seconds later, the block collapses. Let's actually take a look at the video here.
At Global Poker.
Oh my God.
First, we see 2 missiles fly through the cloud of smoke towards the building. A second later, another missile. And another.
Jesus.
In total, 4 Israeli missiles less than 4 seconds apart.
Let's hang on, let's think about that. That is 4 missiles in that rapid amount of time. That's when you know like someone's like actively shooting back against you, and you can confirm that that is like an enemy position or something. But just dropping that many missiles in that area shows, especially it being like an apartment area, it shows like a careless disregard for civilian life, which, you know, obviously Israel has done so much that it's insane. The second missile slammed me to the floor. I couldn't move. The entire wall fell on top of me. I ran and stood under Julia's door frame. I felt the building collapsing as if someone was pulling me by my legs. So that's, I guess that's Ashraf and Julia. So the building is collapsing. Oh, St. Mary. Everything is gone. Dead people, injured people on the ground. My father's neighborhood, Jamil's house. Hurry up, help us. Help us, I beg you. Jesus. I was talking to my father. He told me, I can hear you, I can hear Julia, but I couldn't hear Julia. Julia was closer to my father, but he said her voice was deep. I didn't know where my mother is. All I could think about was my sister. I started screaming, Denise, Medellin, Mayadeen, Nermeen, Ali. I wanted anyone to answer me, even just one. God, I mean, you can't even imagine the devastation of, like, calling out for a loved one's name and just never hearing a response ever again. Ashraf, along with many others, was trapped under the rubble. He began calling out, but the only voice he could hear was that of his father, who told him he could still hear Julia and that she was alive. Neither of them could hear Ashraf's mother. Ashraf sent a voice note to friends in the neighborhood to alert them. The next few hours were agonizing. He could hear rescuers sifting through debris and residents wailing as they discovered loved ones dead. I just kept thinking, please God, not Julia. I can't live this life without Julia. Ashraf was finally pulled from the rubble with only minor injuries. He discovered his mother had been rescued but died in a hospital. Julia had suffocated under the rubble. His father later told him that Julia's last words were calls for her brother. Location of the targeted apartment block. In November, a ceasefire deal was agreed between Israel and Hezbollah with the aim of ending the conflict. The deal gives a 60-day deadline for Israeli forces to withdraw from southern Lebanon and for Hezbollah to withdraw its forces and weapons north of the Litani River. As this 26 January deadline approaches, we sought to find out more about the deadliest single Israeli attack on Lebanon in years. In the apartment below Julia and Ashraf's, Hawra and Ali Fares had been hosting family members displaced by the war. Among them was Hawra's sister, Batul, who, like Julia, had arrived the previous day with her husband and 2 young children. They had fled intense bombardment near the Lebanon-Israel border in areas where Hezbollah has a strong presence. We hesitated about where to go, says Batul, and then I told my husband, let's go to Ain el-Delb. My sister said their building was safe and that they couldn't hear any bombing nearby. Batul's husband, Mohammed Fares, was killed in the Ain el-Delb attack. A pillar fell on Batul and her children. She says no one responded to her calls for help. She finally managed to lift it alone, but her 4-year-old daughter, Hawra, had been fatally crushed. Miraculously, her baby, Malak, survived. Here we go. Here we go with the pictures. 4-year-old Hawra and her cousins, all 3 were killed in the attack. 3 floors below Batul lived Denise and Yaldin Al-Baba. Sorry, I'm I'm working hard on my phonetics here. That Sunday, Denise had invited her brother Hisham over for lunch. The impact of the strike was brutal, says Hisham. The second missile slammed me to the floor. Okay, so that was the guy in the video. The entire wall fell on top of me. He spent 7 hours under the rubble. Jesus. Heard a voice say, far away, people talking, screams, uncover her, remove her, lift the stone. He's still alive. It's a child. Lift this child. I mean, oh my God, I thought to myself, I'm the last one deep underground. No one will know about me. I will die here. When Hisham was finally rescued, he found his niece's fiance waiting to hear if she was alive. He lied to him and told him she was fine. They found her body 3 days later. Hisham lost 4 members of his family, his sister, brother-in-law, and their 2 children. He told us he had lost his faith and no longer believes in God. I mean, that hurts to hear, and it really, when you're experiencing this amount of like death, destruction, and suffering, it's really easy to think that there is no God. And I'm not gonna preach. I'm not gonna lead into a service here, but I take his point, and I think those words speak a lot of power, a lot of truth in those words, and it's hard to even come back from that. find out more about who died, we have analyzed the Lebanese Health Ministry data, videos, social media posts, as well as speaking to survivors of the attack. We particularly wanted to interrogate the IDF's response to media immediately following the attack, that the apartment block had been a Hezbollah command center. We asked the IDF multiple times what constituted a command center, but did not give clarification, of course not. So we began sifting through social media tributes, grave sites, public health records, and videos of funerals to determine whether those killed in the attack had any military affiliation with Hezbollah. Once again, we've already kind of gone through that. The Mujahideen, meaning fighter, senior figures, are referred to as Kite, meaning commander, and we found no such labels used by the group to describe those killed. We asked whether the 6 Hezbollah fighters we identified were the intended targets of the strike, and of course the IDF did not respond. All right, so getting back to this, one of the Hezbollah fighters we identified was Batul's husband, Mohammed Faris. Oh my gosh. Batul told us that her husband, like many other men in southern Lebanon, was a reservist for the group, though she added he had never been paid by Hezbollah, held a formal rank, or participated in combat. Yikes. So they thought they were bombing like some command center with a bunch of commanders and, high-ranking officials, and it's just like, dude, it's just people that were like on reserve, or, people that were just like lightly involved, So Israel sees Hezbollah as one of its main threats, and the group is designated a terrorist organization by Israel, many Western governments, and Gulf Arab states. Okay, fair enough. But alongside its large, well-armed military wing, Hezbollah also has an influential political party holding seats in Lebanese parliament. In many ways, parts of the country is woven into the social fabric, providing a network of social services. So I could see that. I could see how that all connects, and you could have people that are like, maybe they like Hezbollah, or they're affiliated with Hezbollah or the political party, and then they get lumped in with the military wing, and they end up getting killed. So it says, in response to our investigation, the IDF stated that their strikes on military targets are subject to relevant provisions of international law. Oh yeah, they sure do love international law, don't they, while they're violating it constantly? Including taking feasible precautions, and are carried out after an assessment that the expected collateral damage and civilian casualties are not excessive. Dude, the majority of what you killed was civilians, and that's the way it is in Gaza, and same in the West Bank. It's insane. Are not excessive in relation to the military advantage expected from the strike. It earlier told the BBC it had executed evacuation procedures. Who did it warn for the strike in Ain al-Dib? Everyone thought that they were safe there because it was further out from, Beirut. But everyone we spoke to had received no warning. So there you go. Seems like they lied. Even if they were telling the truth, like, go here, it's safe, they bombed him, So UN experts have raised concerns about the proportionality and necessity of Israeli airstrikes on residential buildings in densely populated areas in Lebanon. Yeah, we were seeing stuff in Beirut and the surrounding cities where it's like, dude, you're bombing apartment complexes where there's that is literally all civilians. There's no military command center or a base with a fence and walls and towers and whatever. There's, you're just, and there's so much collateral damage you can have in reaction to said bombing. So the pattern of targeting entire buildings, resulting in significant civilian casualties, has been a recurring feature of Israel's latest conflict with Hezbollah, which began when the group escalated rocket attacks in response to Israel's war in Gaza. Between October 2023 and November 2024, Lebanese authorities say more than 3,960 people were killed in Lebanon by Israeli forces, many of them civilians. Over the same time period, Israeli Authorities say 47 civilians were killed by Hezbollah, rockets fired from southern Lebanon. At least 80 Israeli soldiers were also killed fighting in southern Lebanon, or as a result of rocket attacks on northern Israel. So notice the death disparity there, 3,960 Lebanese versus, 47 civilians plus 80 Israeli soldiers. I mean, like, the analogy here is like the Lebanese people would be throwing a pebble at Israel, and Israel responds with like a nuclear bomb. Like, the disparity between the weapons and the death is just like insane. So the missile strike in Ain al-Delb is the deadliest Israeli attack on a building in Lebanon for at least 18 years. Getting to the end of the article here, the village remains haunted by its impact. When we visited more than a month after the strike, a father continued to visit the site every day, hoping for news of his 11-year-old son whose body had yet to be found. Ashraf Ramadan, too, returns to sift through the rubble, searching for what remains of the memories of his family, built over 2 decades they lived there. He shows me the door of his wardrobe, still adorned with pictures of footballers and pop stars he once admired. Then he pulls a teddy bear from the debris and tells me it was always on his bed. Nothing I find here will make up for the people we lost, he says. All right.
Operation Pillar of Defense, Operation Protective Edge. Then the Israeli...
Hang on. Let's go back here. So, I want to take a look here at Norman Finkelstein, who says if Hamas has to be dismantled because of what it did on October 7th, then the Israeli government has to be dismantled 10 times over.
Hamas has to be dismantled because of what it did on October 7th. Then if you take Operation Cast Lead, Operation Pillar of Defense, Operation Protective Edge, then the Israeli government has to be dismantled 10 times over.
Yeah, I follow you, but it's not really an answer to the question.
Oh, it is an answer to the question.
Because
it's called keeping a single standard.
No, it's
you want to talk about the 290 Israeli hostages? I say fine, but then let's talk about the 2,300,000 Gazans. Hold everyone to a single standard. Number two,
should both governments? What do you mean Israeli? What do you mean by dismantling the Israeli government?
If you want to decide that Hamas has to be dismantled because of what it did on October 7th, I say fine. But then the Israeli government has to also be dismantled because for 20 years it's kept the whole population confined in a concentration camp.
I don't understand.
And periodically,
yeah, I get you.
And periodically,
I don't think you get him.
Okay,
it mows the lawn.
I don't think they get him. I would love to probably watch that whole thing. I don't know. My head might explode if I continue watching that. But Norman has a lot of really good points there. So I appreciate his perspective. And I think even if he's even considering by saying the 2 million number of prisoners or of hostages that are Gazan, he's saying like everyone in Gaza, which I think is fair. But even if you just compared it to actively, like, people that are in a jail, like, there's like 3,000 or something, or maybe more, of especially people that were just brought in on trumped up charges or not even charged with anything, versus like the 200 and something Israeli hostages, which, the majority of them are going to be released. Some will be dead because of either Israeli bombs hit them or also, things happen. I think everybody's got to take responsibility, Hamas and Israel. But I think Israel has a lot more to answer for on that front. So, let's tap into what's next here. All right, next, I want to look at Abubakar Abed, a Palestinian journalist in Gaza, saying that we have been let down by international media. So let's hear him out.
These are not my words, but the words of every single one here, standing here after 459 days of the most well-documented and first live-streamed genocide in history. For these days, we've been reporting tirelessly, extensively, and thoroughly on this genocide. It's indeed a genocide against us, which we've been documenting in makeshift tented camps and workplaces. They are really the places we've taken shelter since day one. You've seen us shedding tears over our loved ones, colleagues, friends, and family members. You've seen us killed in every possible way. We've been immolated, incinerated, dismembered, and disemboweled. And recently, we've been freezing to death.
Yeah.
What more ways should you be seeing us killed in so that you can move and act and stop
That's a good
the
point.
hell inflicted upon us? There are no words to describe what we've been going through, because you've seen our bodies, how they've become fragile, skinny, and fatigued. But we never stopped. We never stopped to tell you the truth, to narrate our stories, and to tell you that we are being genocided, to move your dead consciences, to help a population that has seen every sort of torture and tasted every type of death. Today,
Every type of
we're
death
all
is
standing here
crazy.
after Israel's impunity against us. And we don't know how many journalists should be killed so you can really act and stop Israel's impunity against us. Our message is very clear. We are journalists, and we are Palestinian journalists. We have been let down by the international community, particularly the international media organizations. We haven't seen any sort of support, a single word of support. Even the press vests we're wearing right now mark us as a target. They do not protect us at all.
Yeah.
But yes, because we are Palestinians, maybe if we were Ukrainians or,
Good point.
or any other citizenship with blonde hair
Yep.
and blue eyes,
Oughta be white.
the word would rage and rant for us.
Yeah, and
But
send
because
weapons
we are
to you.
Palestinians, we have only one right, which is to die and be maimed. Finally, we are just documenting a genocide against us. It's enough after almost a year and a half. We want you to stand foot by foot with us, because we are like any other journalists, reporters, and media workers.
I'd say
all
they're
across
more
the
brave
globe,
than any other
no
journalist.
matter the origin, the color, or the race. Journalism is not a crime.
Yeah.
We are not a target.
Goodness sake. Excellent reporting and a brilliant speech on his end. I'm just he's really brilliant. I've only recently kind of stumbled across a lot of his videos and his Twitter account, and I'm really glad to have, just sort of met all these different journalists online and just seen them and tweeted at them and, shared their videos. I think, what he's saying about international and mainstream media not covering Gaza, not covering what any of these people are saying, that is part of the reason. I think that in the crazy political situation we're in the States, It's the mainstream media's failure to cover Gaza. It's the crazy political situation that we have in the United States. The election that just happened, and the fact that no one was talking about Gaza, the West Bank. Like, you have all these journalists, Palestinian journalists, that are on the ground live streaming this genocide, and it's literally coverage that is live and can't be corrupted or distorted by any sort of media. It's just them with like a video camera, with a phone or whatever it is, on the streets documenting the death and the destruction. It's the most straightforward way to get news. Usually you have editors, you have, a board of directors that sit above and tell you, oh, this is the story you can cover and cover it this way. Or if they don't like that you're airing the Palestinian, dissent on an issue, they'll be like, oh yeah, we don't need to cover this. We need to make sure that we get the stronger Israeli perspective because they fund our media organization or whatever it may be. So my, whatever you want to call this organization here in Shack Politics, is entirely funded by the viewers. So no one decides what I cover, although I like to hear input from the viewers of, hey, have you seen this? Or, hey, would you like to cover this? I like that input. I would gladly listen to that input. But at the end of the day, it will be my decision of like what we cover, how we cover it, and making sure that we have integrity as we cover it, and that we are not trying to obfuscate the facts. And, we want to present it in a way that also shows you the abject truth, but I also want to share my opinion because I believe I've proven that I have a vast knowledge of and an understanding of people and politics and psychology and a lot of international politics. I deeply know what's going on in Palestine, and I've followed it my entire life. So that's all you need. So I want to thank you for watching. Let's continue diving into these issues, and I appreciate your support. So definitely hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, do all that good stuff, ring the notification bell. Find us on TikTok and Blue Sky as well as Twitter. Okay? So let me make sure, pull up our next thing here. This is a Substack about Elon Musk and X's role in the 2024 election interference. This is by the Concerned Bird on January 10th, 2025. Now, this is really interesting. So it starts on the 10th of January is the date of this post. And it says, "To whom it may concern, I'm writing with a heavy heart and no small amount of fear. As a former X, formerly Twitter employee on an H-1B visa, I can't reveal my identity without risking everything. But I can't stay silent any longer about what I saw and was made to do. When Elon Musk took over, everything changed. What started as a social media company became something much darker. I was part of a team that was directly ordered to manipulate Twitter's systems to influence the 2024 U.S. presidential election. It wasn't subtle, and it wasn't ethical." Okay, so I just want to mention, as we're covering this, I'm not trying to say that the election was rigged or that Trump didn't win or the results. We're just reporting on Twitter, okay? We're just reading this, okay, to be clear. We completely changed how the algorithm worked, pushing pro-Trump and right-wing posts to the tops of people's feeds. And I see that a lot on Twitter. To make it look balanced, we also boosted some left-wing critics of Democrats. There you go. So no positive Democrat posts, but just like left-wingers that are like holding Democrats accountable, I guess. but it was all carefully calculated. These changes didn't just affect Americans, they impacted users worldwide. One of the most disturbing things we did was create thousands of fake accounts using advanced AI systems called Grok and Eliza. And Grok is the one that you see as you're using Twitter. These accounts look completely real and push political messages that spread like wildfire. Haven't you noticed they all disappeared like magic? We also knowingly allowed foreign governments to manipulate the platform. State-backed groups from Israel, Iran, and Russia were running their own influence campaigns, and because their goals aligned with ours, we looked the other way. Even when they clearly broke the rules, we didn't stop them. And people want to say the Chinese influence on TikTok, even though the CEO is Singaporean, their servers are all in the US. The only data they're getting is our stupid dance videos and the occasional political posts and gamers playing video games live, while Twitter is literally doing like right-wing media and allowing foreign governments to interfere and manipulate the platform to spread more misinformation than usual, breaking every rule in the book. So let's read on. Perhaps the most unethical part was how we manufactured news stories. One team would write completely fake articles, while another team would artificially boost their engagement metrics to make them go viral. We specifically targeted certain groups of people, knowing exactly how to manipulate their views and emotions. The moderation team became a tool for our agenda. We systematically silenced anyone who got in our way, enforcing the rules when it suited us and ignoring it when it didn't. Elon Musk himself was deeply involved in the decisions, often joking about being, quote, a black hat MAGA, unquote. What started a U.S. election interference has now spread to other countries. We're currently doing the same thing in Germany and other European nations. Notice the Elon speaking at the AfD, the far right-wing party, which has a bunch of grandchildren of Nazi high-ranking officials. It's definitely like the modern-day Nazi party without doing the Sieg Heils and without, putting swastikas everywhere, but they are right on the verge of that. So it spread to Germany and other European nations. The damage we've done is immeasurable. And I don't know if it can ever be fixed. People don't know what's real anymore, and that's exactly what we wanted. Information warfare is honestly the next frontier that we've been probably in for the past 20 years or more. The pilot program for the Eliza AI agent was election interference. Eliza was released officially in October 2024, but we had access to it before then, thanks to Mark Andreessen. I'm terrified to be writing this, but I had to speak up. I just hope someone with the power to do something about this sees this letter. You'll know what I'm saying is the truth by Elon's actions to the news, someone spoke out. For more evidence, look at the docs of Eliza AI agent software. We left breadcrumbs. Yours sincerely, a former employee who can't sleep at night. And then, of course, he has a GitHub link to those Eliza documents. So, I don't know. It's I'm surprised this hasn't blown up or been covered by like mainstream media. I haven't seen anyone else. I literally saw like a little post on TikTok, and then I saw that the article was clearly from Substack, and I found the Concerned Birds Substack and decided that this really needed to be covered. So let's. Oh my God, the subscribe thing. It's unhinged. You have to subscribe, okay? Otherwise, that notification just will not go away. It's just going to be there every time I pivot from one topic to another. I have something a little on the lighter side here. This is something, amidst the darkness here. Amidst all this, darkness and terrible things, I want you to know that you can actually donate to a GoFundMe. This is the Gaza Bakery feeding displaced families. This is a verified one. It's protected. Your donations are protected. And this is one that I've seen the majority report has posted about it. A lot of other online publications, content creators, left-leaning Democrat shows, whatever you want to call it. A lot of that media has been promoting this. I've seen this online. I know it's one of the ones, I think there's a lot of people kind of scamming and pretending to be families from Gaza, and you can't really verify where they're from, and you can't trace things, but they have updates here. They have explanations of their spending, and Mohammed and his family. You can see photo documentation here. 8-year-old Afaf delivering food packages and being adorable. Oh my God. And of course there's some pastries there. And you can see the family members. And of course updates and comments, but Mohammed Al. Yeah. Yeah, definitely worth if you have even the smallest amount of money, or if you can just share the link. If you don't have money, just share the link and spread some of that goodwill, and try to get people to do something for these people, because one of the biggest things is just having food to eat in this time, because not a lot of aid is getting through. So definitely consider that if you're looking for ways to help. That's one of the best ones that I've actually seen. Next, I want to read to you some news here that's very recent. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, UNRWA, has said at least 7 Palestinian children have died from the cold in Gaza since the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel began. There's some updates here that Israel has raided homes of freed Palestinians and shoots at Gaza residents. Some of the things that happened, this is as of January 25th. 2-year-old Palestinian girl has been shot in the head and killed during an Israeli raid on a village south of the occupied West Bank city of Jenin. Palestinian man shot and killed by Israeli forces during a military raid on Balata refugee camp in Nablus in the occupied West Bank. A second prisoner exchange in the framework of the Gaza ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas has concluded. Hamas released 4 female Israeli soldiers held in Gaza, while 200 Palestinian prisoners were released from Israeli jails. Israeli forces stormed the homes of several former Palestinian prisoners who were freed as a part of the deal to prevent celebrations for their return. Remember when I said that Palestinians are not allowed to celebrate? There you go. That's the consequences. Al Jazeera correspondents say that Palestinians were shot at as they waited for permission to cross into northern Gaza. We have video footage of that we're going to show you later. While reports say the gunfire killed 1 person, Hamas said Israel was delaying the implementation of the ceasefire deal by not allowing Palestinians to return to their homes in the north of Gaza. Israeli military, hang on, I wanted to find one here. Yeah, Palestinians celebrating in Hebron. And yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to get to regarding that topic. Next, I want to talk about a Twitter feed here from Sana Saeed. She's a media critic. She has worked with Al Jazeera. We've seen her in several videos covering the genocide. And she said, why did Israel publish the alleged footage of Yahya Sinwar's last moments? I've written about this before. Israeli propaganda is meant for Israelis and Zionists. Every bit of propaganda they put out is, from their vantage point, meant to humiliate Palestinians as well as show a spectacle of their defiance and might. And of course, we can see just like drone footage here. It's like a minute-long clip of Sinwar's final moments. It doesn't show any like violence or gore here, so you're safe from that if you're worried. Sana continues, the Israelis have zero self-awareness on this front. They are consumed by narcissism. They see Sinwar's last moments and see their victory. Ending the lives of Arabs is that victory. Others not vested in Israeli ethno-supremacy see a man fighting head-on. He is not running away. It's a strong visual message that we all collectively can recall. The dying but still defiant native fighting the invader until his last breath. The Israelis, the invaders, are unable to fathom martyrdom. They are unable to fathom the desire and existence of dying for something. We know this because of how easily they kill Palestinians with impunity. Anyone who exterminates a people, especially children, values neither life or death. Yes, the Israelis are stupid, but more emphatically, they are narcissistic. In this video, they only see the death of the man that brought them to their knees. Others, as evidenced by the response, see the fight of the man who brought the Israelis to their knees. Unfortunately for the Israeli government, I don't think this video will have the effect they think it should have on their own people and supporters. It will, on many, be the image and its message are too strong to be ignored. She said, I wrote about Israeli versus Hamas propaganda in December 2023. It's just absolutely crazy. That is her thread. Definitely an interesting look. I always appreciate her perspective. So we'll definitely stay tuned to what she has to say. Now, getting into Trump's healthcare agenda, shutting down like all these various healthcare groups, whether it's funding for medical research, it's the FDA, all these being shut down. We have a tweet here from Eric Koch. He says, a friend of mine has skin cancer and was about to start a clinical trial at MD Anderson after his other treatments did not work. Trump's decision to temporarily halt funding for medical research also applies to clinical trials. His treatment is now canceled. So it says, yes, all my appointments related to the trial have been canceled for the time being. This is effed up. And someone says, fuck, does that mean it's on a pause? And then after that says, happy belated birthday, so that Trump ruling to hold funding for scientific medical research also hits clinical trials. I was supposed to start next week. So you can see that thread there. Very shameful, honestly. And we're going to take a look at probably more stories revolving on that as we go. Jared Kushner's firm is now the largest owner of an Israeli construction finance insurance company building settlements in the West Bank, meaning that he is now directly aiding and abetting war crimes under the Rome Statute and could be liable for prosecution by the court. This also means Saudi Arabia and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who in turn are the largest investors in Kushner's firm, Affinity Partners, are also effectively owners of the Israeli settlement firm and helping build illegal settlements, undermining Saudi's stated goal of an independent Palestinian state. Go figure. So very interesting, playing both sides against the middle for whatever advantage there will be. So Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, doubled his stake in an Israeli firm to gain from expanding the settlements. Definitely worth looking into. I will include this link in our coverage. Next, in kind of absolute hilarity news here, a Montgomery County official mimicked Elon Musk's controversial salute sparking outrage online and her resignation from the local library and a nonprofit. You can find her video online, and she says that she posted the TikTok to, quote, stir the pot, unquote. Of course, she has resigned from all her positions, and she's deleted these videos or hidden them or however, because we're only able to find on TikTok like people that download the video like immediately, and they were watching it on their phones, and we can watch it that way. I'm not going to show it today. But I think it's important that we've already established that Elon's gesture, his salute, was indeed a Nazi salute. German publications and newspapers, as I've covered in videos, have identified it as a Nazi salute and will not even post the outstretched hand because it is illegal to publicize the Nazi salute, the Sieg Heil, and it is illegal for the swastika and all that to be published. So there's a lot of laws. If you even do that in Germany or Austria, various other countries, I mean, you can face charges. So she said in the video, just checking in on my friends who are struggling this week. My heart goes out to you. Hope you're doing okay. And of course, she does the gesture in the video. Now, in a statement in the Inquirer, Smith said the video has been greatly mischaracterized. She said she made the post to stir the pot because I can. I don't know. That's a weird apology or a weird excuse. So her statement is, not wishing to give offense, I removed the video from my accounts. I abhor racism, anti-Semitism, or discrimination in any fashion or form. That's insane because you did do a Nazi salute. And my record as a township supervisor attests to my commitment to treat all people with dignity and respect. Well, I don't think you'll be treating anybody because I don't think anyone's going to want to be around you, especially if you're a Nazi. Smith did not respond to the Inquirer's inquiry. This is from the Philadelphia Inquirer, as to whether she will resign from her supervisor position. I think she probably should. Fellow Republicans on the Board of Supervisors didn't respond for comment. Yeah, a bunch of kind of irrelevant stuff here. Local Democrats are clear they want Smith to resign as township supervisor. I'm not sure what's taking so long, said Jason Salas, chair of the Montgomery County Democrats. Joyce F. Snyder, secretary of the Board of Supervisors, said she was shocked that Smith used a Nazi salute. In her day-to-day life, I think she sometimes liked to, as she put, stir the pot, so that was no surprise to me, Snyder said. The extent that she went to was. I don't think there's any way to put the genie back in this bottle, Snyder added. I don't think it should be put back in its bottle. So, of course, the Anti-Defamation League, which is an Israeli arm of Zionist propaganda, said that Musk's gesture is awkward and that all sides should give one another a bit of grace. Well, I don't think there's any grace when you do a Nazi salute several times while saying that my heart goes out to you. It's or saying that afterward, rather. So yeah, stupid thing to post, says Montgomery County GOP chair. I agree with the ADL that Musk was just gesturing. Oh my God, people just covering for Nazis. However, with all the swirl in the media, it's unnecessary to try and spin people up with something like that and distracts from the real issues. It's just, yeah, that's crazy. To be clear, if you are doing a pose with the intention of making people upset because it looks like a Nazi salute, the pose you are doing is a Nazi salute, Osei said on Facebook. I condemn this blatant anti-Semitism expressed by Laura Smith in no uncertain terms and believe she should apologize and resign from the Board of Supervisors. Yeah. So it's a lot from there, but it's time for new leadership, is what Snyder says at the very end. It says, wow, is it past time for new leadership? So there you go. This next bit is an article from Prem Thacker about forget hashtag resistance, how Democrats gave Trump victory after victory. He says, is Trump's return to the Oval Office simply Democrats' chickens coming home to roost? Well, let's dive in. Donald Trump, a twice impeached president who incited a deadly insurrection, was found liable for sexual abuse, was later convicted of fraud. So he is a convicted criminal now. Returned to the Oval Office, and everything swirling around his return underscores exactly why he's back. Democrats' political ineptitude and lack of principle or discernible beliefs. I will add that I'm a progressive Democrat, but I will call bullshit out whenever I see it, whether it's on the left or the right. Democrats have been screwing up for a long time. So you only have to look at the first 24 hours of his second term to see reminders of every single rake Democrats have stepped on during their bumbling walk helping Trump return. So first, TikTok. Democrats were caught on the back foot with the TikTok ban. Let's not forget that Trump first got the ball rolling in an effort to ban TikTok with an executive order in his first term. That order was blocked. But the effort was later picked up in Congress due to Zuckerberg, of course, funding a bunch of political lobbying and, donating to a lot of people and incentivizing that because TikTok is competition to them and their algorithm is great and more people are using the service, that they should come up with an idea like Chinese interference to get the app banned. So instead of heeding the warnings of progressives and young people who said banning TikTok, an app used by 170 million people in the U.S., would have grave consequences for the party, Democrats joined Republicans in passing the measure, sending it to Biden, who signed it. It's a slam dunk of critical failure. By this time, with the 2024 campaign well underway, Trump began to flip his position. All of this culminated on Sunday when the ban took effect. Millions opened the app to find the message, sorry, TikTok isn't available. A law banning TikTok has been enacted in the U.S. Unfortunately, that means you can't use TikTok right now. We are fortunate that President Trump has indicated that he will work with us on a solution to reinstate TikTok once he takes office. Please stay tuned. So it was down from like 10 p.m. that night to like 10 or 11 a.m. the next day. I started getting messages that it was back up. And sure enough, I was greeted with a message that said, thanks to Donald Trump, TikTok is back and we're looking at ways to actually get it unbanned. So what does that mean? Trump ends up looking like the hero, whether he's the good guy or not. It's public perception. So less than 12 hours later, after Trump said he would sign an order delaying the ban, TikTok was back online. Thanks for your patience and effort, TikTok told its users. As a result of President Trump's efforts, TikTok is back in the U.S. So then on Monday, Trump signed an executive order to suspend the ban for 75 days to have more time to figure out a solution, including a possible 50-50 partnership between the U.S. and TikTok's parent company, ByteDance. Yes, there was slightly more support from Republicans than Democrats to ban TikTok. Yes, Republicans, especially Trump, who were apparently so against the influence of the Chinese Communist Party, flip-flopped seamlessly. But who was caught holding the bag? Democrats. And who looked like the hero? Trump. It's very true. His assessment is very appropriate. I see that in my view as well. It didn't have to happen. Democrats didn't have to haphazardly support going after one social media giant, one so widely used and enabling the world to see the war crimes they were funding, which is another reason it went down, is that Mitt Romney was actually asked, and he said, I don't like all the Palestinian positivity that is being spread through the app, showing the suffering of the people and the genocide and the war crimes that Israel's doing. He wants everybody to salute the Israeli army. So, they could have consolidated their concerns about big tech into a larger, more universal message about privacy, where they could have gone after Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Go after everybody. Treat everyone the same way. But no, there's a business advantage here. There's a chance for everybody to make some money. Privacy, corporate influence, and a broader dialogue on how these applications take over our lives. After all, without any organized opposition, big tech companies have become power hubs that spread the lies that have boosted extremism, and even Trump's electoral bid, the fruits of which were on full display as tech execs enjoyed the inauguration stage, or the broligarchy, the broligarchy, right? Instead, Democrats helped lead a doomed-from-the-start campaign against one app with an unfocused effort rallied against by the masses. Democrats can bemoan the hypocrisy of Republicans. They can complain about how unfair it is that Trump flip-flopped, or they could just play a better game. Now, on Israel and Palestine, Israel's genocide in Gaza, the issue that has perhaps most defined Biden's legacy. In his final days as president, Biden got what he supposedly worked on tirelessly for 15 months, a ceasefire. But again, who's getting the credit, at least publicly? Trump, who reportedly was an X factor that pushed the deal forward. Apparently his big gruff speech to Netanyahu probably, turned the tide, is what they're trying to say. Sure, the stability of the deal is uncertain, especially as Israeli forces now escalate their attacks in the occupied West Bank. And yes, it's unclear if or what Trump, who is certainly not pro-Palestinian, as he used Palestinian as a slur during the presidential debate with Joe Biden, promised Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in return. He's already lifted Biden-era sanctions on extremist settlers in the West Bank, but the optics remain a ceasefire deal falling into place only after Trump put real pressure on the Israeli side for the first time, as one diplomat put it. Momentary optics aside, the timing highlights another front where Democrats abandoned their purported principles, like respect for international law, human rights, and instead reinforced a far-right premise that Israel deserved unconditional U.S. aid no matter how many people it killed. And just as with immigration, even if the stakes were only cynical, the approach offered no electoral reward. And then, of course, there's the January 6 pardons of roughly 1,500 convicted January 6 rioters and criminals, of which Insurrection Grandma did not accept a pardon because she realized MAGA is a cult and the news funnel is only what Trump wants you to hear. It's only what Trump thinks and sees and does and wants you to know about. So when you get all your news from just one person, that's essentially state-run media, which is basically what Fox News and all these other OAN, all these other groups are doing. Next, Palestinians in Gaza hold First Friday prayers since the ceasefire in a destroyed mosque. And I think there was audio on this, but maybe it's been muted by TikTok. But it shows the resilience of these people. This is in Khan Yunis. Yeah, here's the audio now. Is almost entirely leveled by relentless Israeli bombing. It just shows that they're willing to meet in a building with no walls and nothing but a roof. Israel damaged or destroyed 8% of all mosques in Gaza, over 960 of them. Now, that right there is literally the comparison of this is what it used to look like. This is what it looks like now. You can see small recognizable bits like the dome in the central part of the building. That's, central structure is still standing. But I mean, why are you bombing churches? Why are you bombing schools? Why are you bombing hospitals? Why are you bombing ambulances? Why are you shooting children in the head? Good question. Israel also destroyed 19 cemeteries. Of course, you can see them driving through some of the world's oldest churches, and that includes Christian churches. December 2023, Israel bombed the historic Great Omari Mosque. It first became a mosque almost 1,400 years ago. I don't care what religion you are, but the disrespect for history, if I see it's a Muslim church or I see it's a synagogue or it's a Christian church, what have you, a monastery, anything. It devastates me to see things that were so old and respected and continually used generation after generation for centuries just be destroyed for no reason at all here. So 13th century library, dated back to the 13th century. First 100 days of its attack, Israel has already destroyed and damaged 195 cultural sites. Before the ceasefire, Palestinians experienced 15 months of relentless bombings. There you go. I mean, I think it's just important to point that stuff out, and it really grinds my gears when we see historical areas destroyed, other than just like the genocide, but the disgust and the lack of preservation of historical areas and things that mean so much to every religion on the world in the world, that those areas sort of stand as a peaceful area where you're not going to find terrorists. There's no secret command center. It's just unbelievable to me. Now, this is Trump calling to clean out Gaza and relocate Palestinians from January 25th. Let's listen.
Looking at the whole Gaza Strip right now, and it's a mess. It's a real mess.
So you'd like Jordan to house people from
I'd like him to take people. I'd like Egypt to take people. I'm talking to General El-Sisi tomorrow, sometime I believe. And I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. You're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole.
Clean out.
You know, it's over the centuries. That's many, many conflicts that site, and I don't know. It's something has to happen, but it's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's demolished, and people are dying there. So I'd rather get involved with some of the Arab nations and build housing in a different location where they can maybe live in peace for a change.
temporarily, or would they?
It could be either. It could be temporarily. Could be long term.
So it's very interesting. He says it could be temporary. It could be permanent.
We just
clean out that whole thing.
Over the centuries,
and then he says over the centuries it's had many conflicts. That side, he's talking about Palestinians, and he's basically saying we just need to move them all out in like. And if you're talking about moving out all Palestinians, you'd probably even consider annexing the West Bank and moving all them to Jordan and Egypt. Like, even if they wanted to, like, even America would be like, what the fuck? Like, no one would be able to handle a crisis of that level, that many immigrants. Like, how would you build houses? You know, how would you get health care to them? How would you, get them legal papers and the stuff like that to establish them as citizens? And the other reason is that Egypt and Jordan don't want them. And it's not because, like, they're like, no, we don't want immigrants. It's that it would be enabling the ethnic cleansing and the genocide to accept these people. So they're not just saying, hey, it's not our problem, although sometimes they do say that, but they really want to protect the Palestinian people by allowing them to stay on their land and not be kicked out with some sort of right to return that's like never really guaranteed, and that, promises are never kept, and that their land either gets divvied up or they all just get massacred. I mean, I think the perseverance that they would rather stay in pursuit of absolute death and just in order to keep their land and their people is the key part of this. I don't know what else to say. But that audio, I knew it was coming, and it was very scary to hear. Like, I couldn't believe I was hearing it. But I think you have to remember, Trump is going to come for everyone. And at one point it's going to be the gays, at one point it's going to be women, at one point it's going to be like diversity stuff, it's going to be different races, and the Palestinians are going to be a thing that he goes after, obviously saying cleaning Gaza, just really admits that the ethnic cleansing is going to happen. And I think using that word is very deliberate. He doesn't accidentally use words like that. So we're going to dive in more. We're actually going to dive in more to what Trump said about cleaning Gaza and listen to some supporting evidence here.
President Donald Trump just proposed the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from Gaza.
Yep.
Listen here as he discusses a phone call he had with Jordan's King Abdullah.
I said to him, I'd love you to take on more. Because I'm looking at the whole Gaza Strip right now, and it's a mess.
It's a mess. Who created that mess, dude?
I'd like him to take people. I'd like Egypt to take people.
Nope.
You're talking about probably 1.5 million people. And
they don't have the infrastructure for that.
So
neither do we, honestly.
Get involved with some of the Arab nations and build housing in a different location where they can maybe live in peace for a change. Temporary, or would they? It could be either. It could be temporary. It could be long term.
These new comments are strikingly similar to those made by Trump's son-in-law and former senior advisor Jared Kushner.
As we said,
year.
The thing that I would try to do if I was Israel right now is I would just bulldoze something in the Negev. I would try to move people in there. I know that won't be the popular thing to do, but I think that that's a better option to do.
Just a reminder,
Yikes.
Kushner was Trump's Middle East peace envoy and led the widely condemned move of the US Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Kushner's hedge fund has also just become the largest shareholder in Phoenix Financial, a major Israeli firm that finances illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank.
Good war crimes.
Settlers and even far-right government ministers have said they want to.
I told you they're going to build condos on
His proposal has
on the
been
beach in Gaza.
by friend and foe alike.
Yeah. Achieving peace is firm and unwavering. Our rejection of displacement is firm and unwavering. Palestinian people were subjected. The genocide were not displaced or transferred from the Gaza Strip. They also remain steadfast and attached to their lands. What would prompt them to move or be displaced again after the war stopped?
Real estate mogul, and he's already said Gaza could be better than Monaco if it was developed properly. Now, the rebuilding of Gaza is a possible third step in the ceasefire plan, but there are more and more doubts about how that will happen and who's going to be living there.
Indeed. Who's gonna be living there? Who's gonna be living there, Chief? Next, released Israeli soldiers, they're women, thanked the Palestinians in Arabic for food, water, and clothes, for treating them well and protecting them from Israeli bombs. Let's actually take a look at the video here. Look at the little Palestinian necklaces. Peace be upon you. Hi, thank you to all Qassam brigades for all the good treatment. Thank you for food, water, and clothes. They're thanking Hamas, literally. Thank you to the men who used to take care of us and look after us from the Israeli bombardment. God willing, today will be a good day. I think they said God willing. The best day. And everyone is okay. And they look healthy. 25th of January, 2025. And I want to also pull up Bisan. I'm going to pull up Bisan's reaction.
This video from the second exchange, hostages exchange between the Palestinians and the Israeli occupation. Okay, and the ladies here are saying in Arabic, in Arabi, thanks for the Palestinian resistance for the lovely treatment. Thanks for the Palestinian resistance for food, water, and clothes. Thanks for the Palestinian resistance, the Palestinian fighters for protecting us from the Israeli bombing. And the last one is saying, hope you a lovely, a happy day. Actually, dear, it was not a happy day.
No.
Because due to the deal, Israel must allow the Palestinians who are displaced for 15 months now from the north to the south to go to the north again. But what Israel has done right after the exchange, they prevented the Palestinians to go back to the north. They prevented us. I'm still in the south waiting. Actually, this is not everything because we are a very welcoming, generous people. The ladies here are in Gaza seaport, the remains of it. because Israel bombed it and destroyed it several times during this genocide, while it was one of the main and most important places to hang out for Palestinians and for Gazans because of the besieged Gaza. Now, ladies here, they visited the most popular place or hangout spot in Gaza. So this is happening while the Palestinian people is deprived from food, water, and clothes, from safety, and from being heard or being in a good health or
and they were treated well and in good health.
15 months now.
Well, the Palestinian hostages were like scrawny and malnourished. So you know how Israel treats their prisoners. All right, let's check out Gaza's Netzarim corridor and Palestinians waiting to return to northern Gaza. Israeli gunfire. Just crowds of people ducking for cover. And this is all during a ceasefire, folks. More gunfire and chaos. Absolutely insane. Now, we also have next Israelis. Oh my gosh, Israelis opening fire on. I'm trying to pause it so we can pull it up here. Also a video here of Israel killing civilians as it ignores the deadline to withdraw from Lebanon. So these are Lebanese civilians returning home, and they're showing the flags. Israel was supposed to withdraw from southern Lebanon. They're using live fire.
The people of southern Lebanon attempt to reach their village. You can see behind me that earth mound really separates the people of southern Lebanon, people who have been displaced for more than a year, people who want to go back to their homes. And then behind that earth mound, you can see an Israeli army jeep. Are
in
saying
an APC.
that, Israel is violating that ceasefire agreement.
There you go.
They should have left because that's
Violating it all day long, never shows up on mainstream media, you know. More than a dozen people have been killed, dozens more injured. Wow, they're crawling through barbed wire. Further south, Israeli forces were seen setting up roadblocks. Yep, just destroying, bulldozing everything. Blocking the way to Mays Hospital. And now they're blocking the roads to Aitaron, Lida, Majal Jabal, Bulldoze, Saluki, the roads to Mabib, our equipment and working. The land and our souls are tied here to our homes. We call on the Lebanese state, His Excellency the President. Tomorrow we will go up there, remove these barriers, and reclaim our land. Certainly we will make a resistance, not engaging in armed resistance, a popular national resistance, which everyone has a right to. Palestinians, Lebanese, what have you. You know, the Israelis are here and they are damaging and destroying and killing people despite a ceasefire agreement. Our heritage and now our children, we want to live in our land. Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't? You have to give them that opportunity. Next, let's talk about Israel ethnically cleansing.
They sought to ethnically cleanse as much of that territory as possible, and that plan has failed. It's failed for multiple reasons, one of which is that Arab leaders who were approached at that point in time simply declined to take on an additional Palestinian refugee population, in part because it was simply politically unviable, whether in Egypt in particular, which was very much
Jordan
at that point as a possible destination for a mass ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from Gaza. And secondly, and perhaps more importantly, is because the Palestinians themselves we're not interested in this, right? That they know all too well what it means to leave their home and what the status of Palestinian refugees has looked like for the past 70 years. Ultimately, all of this is about enabling and excusing Israel's behavior over the course of the genocide of the last 15 months. And so I think as a result, the conditions simply are not there in spite of what the U.S. president may say in this sort of off-the-cuff remark. But we know, of course, that in many instances that his remarks do reflect a certain important position within both his administration and, of course, as we've said, among Israeli officials as well. These images that we're seeing of Palestinians demanding to return to their homes also flies in the face of any attempt to try to forcibly relocate them outside of Palestine.
Absolutely. And so he makes it clear. Egypt doesn't want to aid and abet ethnic cleansing. Jordan doesn't want to do it. Lebanon probably doesn't want to do it either. And it's also that the Palestinians don't want to leave their home as well because they know what it means. They know that that land will be stolen and they'll never have the right to come back there. It will be solely a Jewish land. Now, what's also important to realize here is that if they were to take in the Palestinian refugees, then Israel could just magically say, oh, those Palestinians you have there are Hamas, and start bombing Egypt, start bombing Jordan, in the way that they just randomly decide, like, we're going to bomb Gaza, we're going to bomb Lebanon, we're going to bomb the West Bank, or we're going to go jail and attack people. Taking on the refugees would also lead to potential further conflicts. So there is a danger, too, attached to it. So there's a lot of stakes there, and the biggest one is that the Palestinians want their freedom and their land, and they damn well deserve it because they were there. They were there first. Now let's take a look at Elon Musk speaking at the German far-right AfD rally by video link, and this is the far-right group where some of the people here have links to their grandparents being high-ranking Nazi officials during World War II.
Hello? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
It's okay to be proud to be German. This is a very important principle. And I think there's frankly too much of a focus on past guilt, and we need to move beyond that.
Oh, past guilt.
Children should not be guilty of the sins of their parents, or even let alone their parents, their great grandparents, maybe even. Fight for
sure, but
fight for a great future for Germany. Go. Convince your parents, convince everyone. Let's go.
in response to this, Germans have been marching against they've been marching against fascism.
Alle Kriminellen, alle Straftäter werden wir abschieben. Sie müssen unser Land verlassen.
That's crazy. Now, this next thing is a rather moving video, and I believe the theme is that I'm not from Palestine, but I can understand and empathize with what they're going through. So, I mean, let's take a look, because I think there's a really strong message here.
I'm not from Palestine, but here I stand. My eyes telling 1,000 stories about a land of hope, a land of courage, a land where one child is braver than 1,000,000 men. I am not from Palestine, and the world is blind. They won't open their eyes or even take a stand. Can they hear the children's cries? Or the bombs that are raining from the skies? I know they do. But all they do is justify their crimes. I'm not from Palestine, but I bleed, because every Palestinian's wound is mine. I'm not from Palestine, but I understand that what goes around comes around.
Oh.
And that one day, the sun will shine.
Yeah.
And my hands will touch the sand of a free land. called Palestine.
The powerful message. I really like it. I think it speaks to the heart of the issue. And I think it's really cool. I think it's a really cool video. And I think that message is powerful, and we need to get that out there. I mean, you don't have to be Palestinian to care about this issue. You don't have to be Arab or Muslim or what have you to care, you know? It's a human issue, is what it is. So, this is another perspective from the Netzarim corridor in Gaza, where they're waiting to cross into northern Gaza, and Israelis start shooting.
While we were covering the people who were gathered near the Netzarim corridor in order to cross back to the north of Gaza, we heard a gunfire and then lots of more bullets directly towards the people. Everyone was panicked, everyone was running away, screaming, shouting, kids, women, all of them, they were running and, you know, in fear, and everyone was escaping the place. And then it became chaotic, so we decided to leave and to evacuate the area.
How would you describe the war? This is a war from hell. The genocidal war. This is not a war, it's a genocide. Genocide. Displacement in the life we live. A stray dog in other countries wouldn't live the same way. I miss everything, even the air. The air is what makes Gaza. When I reached here, my soul returned to me. God forbid if there's a second war. Are you going to leave the north? I want to die. I want to die, I want to die. In my house, I will not leave. I will not move. How would you describe your displacement? I swear to God we were humiliated. Thank God we were in a tent. Just humiliation. Will you leave if anything else happens? No way. I was telling this lady I will die there. After the humiliation we faced, no way. Thousands gathered because Israel was meant to allow people to cross. And then they started firing at this group of people. See, that's the perspective we saw earlier. So now we were seeing like a cross. Israel says they postponed reopening the Netzarim corridor because Hamas didn't release a female captive. There you go. Hamas says she will be released in the next exchange. What are you gonna do, man? I mean, it's a difficult process. You have to negotiate back and forth. But, you know, it's got to be done. Next, I want to show you a screenshot I actually took on my phone. Google Maps. This is Beit Hanun. And if you zoom in right here, you can see that the IDF actually drove around in this field and drew all sorts of designs. And they did a Star of David here, which, you know, I think has become distorted to be the modern day swastika as we've seen it in the genocide. This is a way of mocking the Gazans and Palestinians even further. Of course, you can see the kind of bombs that they drop and the craters that they leave behind. We can also see in this second image, I went a little ways south, I believe, and these are bombs that they dropped on roads. So anytime you hear about like ambulances or civilians just walking away being bombed, you can see the size of these craters and how it causes a lot of collateral damage. But stuff like this is war crimes. And all you got to do is Google Maps, Beit Hanun, you scroll around and you'll see it. I don't know how long Google will keep it up because I think at some point they're probably going to blur this area, which they kind of do with certain like top secret areas or anything that they find offensive or whatever. But it's interesting. Do we find the Star of David offensive? I think a lot of people do now. When you see the Israeli flag, when you see that symbol, you don't really think of its original intent anymore. Much like the swastika used to be a Buddhist symbol of like peace, but then obviously it's been changed and distorted into what is, the Nazi symbol, the symbol of their party. So I think kind of the same thing has happened to the Star of David here. This is just horrific to look at, and it's crazy that I was able to just easily find it. I scrolled all over Beit Hanun and saw all the craters. You can see all the destroyed homes here. There's all these buildings. It's just nothing but rubble. It's all gray on the map there. And then you just all of a sudden see these tracks where, they took some time away from killing so that they could, carve out a Star of David there. And I mean, this here, kind of the way these are lined up, this looks like a graveyard. The way we're seeing like little stones laid out a few inches apart. So I can't really tell, but can't really confirm that. But it, looks like either that or it could be crops. But my money would probably be on a graveyard, because they do commonly bulldoze through there and disrespect Palestinian graves. Next, I want to take a look at how activists are exposing commercial shipments of weapons to Israel by taking on the global shipping industry. This is a really cool way. They allege the Danish shipping company Maersk plays a central role.
The world's largest shipping and logistics company is also a leading partner in Israel's genocide against Palestinians.
This is better than just boycotting.
By targeting Maersk specifically, we are able to go directly to the supply chain for the Israeli genocide. We are building a true people's arms embargo.
Yeah, because our governments won't do it. They uncovered what they say is a massive commercial operation to help move U.S. military aid to Israel.
Maersk has facilitated over 2,100 such shipments for the Israeli Ministry of Defense, totaling tens of thousands of tons of military cargo.
More than they would ever need. Their report traces specific routes of those shipments, and they found over 940 made port in Spain after Spain announced an embargo against ships selling military goods to Israel in May. So, talking out of one side of their mouth and saying, yeah, we support Palestine, but by the way, just let a couple of these through.
We published these findings. The Spanish government had to backtrack, announce that they would investigate our findings, and then they immediately prevented 2 incoming Maersk ships from docking in the port of Algeciras.
There you go. Spanish politicians have been calling out their government for violating its own embargo against Israel. Spanish government continues buying and selling, allowing the transit of weapons to Israel. Morocco allowed at least one of them to dock in Tangier. Well, there you go. Sparked protest in Morocco. Palestinian flags everywhere. That's so crazy.
Ports are critical nodes in the supply chain.
You gotta shut that shit down.
Being used against Palestinians.
Hell yeah. Gibraltar is a vital access point. Oh, hang on. Let me go back. Why does it move so fast, man? After it was forced to stop using the Red Sea due to Houthi attacks on vessels bound for Israel.
If those Mediterranean ports were closed off to Israel, shipping and logistics companies like Maersk would have to go around the Horn of Africa and
super expensive
in order to transport these weapons and military
cargo. And you need to shut everything down.
In the genocide.
Maersk said the ships were transporting cargo other than weapons and munitions. The report listed some of the military equipment Maersk commonly ships.
Carriers, heavy tactical vehicles like the Oshkosh. The Israeli Ministry of Defense puts rocket launchers on these tactical vehicles that we know Maersk is shipping, and they launch missiles at Palestinian homes, schools, and refugee camps.
And churches. Activists say much of what Maersk is shipping to Israel
Almost
remains unreported.
35% of
Yeah, off the books,
the
huh?
shipments that we looked into that Maersk was delivering to the Israeli Ministry of Defense had entirely blank descriptions on their bills of
Ooh.
lading, which is the
That's
commercial
probably a
document
crime.
that Maersk is required to report as a
Yep.
part of their facilitation of trade. This should be highly suspicious to
Mhm.
anyone looking at this data, and we have
But
to
no
be
one's
asking ourselves,
looking
what is
because
Maersk trying
APAC
to
pays
hide?
you not
We
to
will
look.
not stop doing this kind of research and exposing their ties as a merchant of death in the genocide until they cut all of their connections facilitating the arms trade with Israel.
I would say share this video as much as you can because the word needs to get out about this and people need to find ways, whether it's protesting, whether it's appealing to their governments, to block this trade. If our government, if the United States won't stop shipping this crap, we need to be there at the ports and stopping it from going and investigating the legality of it all. All right. Despite J.D. Vance having a Bachelor of Arts from Ohio State University and having a Doctor of Jurisprudence from Yale University, which allows, you know, it's a graduate entry professional degree that primarily prepares various individuals to practice law in the United States. It is the only qualifying law degree. He has a message for you. And if you're stupid enough, you might very well just obey it.
To what we want to do in this movement in this country, I think are fundamentally dependent on going through a set of very hostile institutions, specifically the universities, which control the knowledge in our society, which control what we call truth and what we call falsity.
Whoa, hey, we want to control what is true and what is false and what is fact and what is fiction in our society? That's weird.
Gives credibility to some of the
I
most
like what
ridiculous
happens
ideas
on Twitter.
that exist in our country. And so I'm excited to close this conference with this particular set of remarks because I
Yikes.
think if any of us want to do the things that we want to do for our country and for the people who live in it, we have to honestly and aggressively attack the universities in this country. We need wisdom. And there was a wisdom.
Okay, we need wisdom.
In what Richard Nixon said
No, there's not.
40, 50 years ago. He said, and I quote,
No one quotes Nixon, dude.
professors are the enemy.
What? That's it? The professors are the enemy? That's it? That's the quote? There's nothing. Dude, there's nothing intellectual about that. There's nothing intellectual about, like, yo, education sucks. It's stupid to be educated. We need to attack all the universities because they're all wrong. And he says there's wisdom in doing this. We need wisdom. And there's wisdom in what Nixon says. Like, that's insane. I mean, no comment. Amidst a sea of war crimes, we have laughter being heard as a strike hits a building in Gaza. This has been verified by Sky News.
We have verified this video of an Israeli drone strike near the coast. The people watching, believed to be soldiers, laugh as one of them sings the final countdown.
Singing the final countdown is crazy.
There are plans to reoccupy Gaza, but bulldozers are destroying what few buildings are left standing. Northern Gaza is steadily being emptied, and any memory of life here eradicated.
That's disgusting. I mean, that alone should be a war crime. That type of behavior coming from soldiers. I don't know. This next video is pretty interesting. It's about Hamas's armed wing, the Qassam Brigades. And this is them handing over Israeli hostages to the Red Cross in Gaza. Hamas fighters were seen in other parts of Gaza after the ceasefire. which shows that Israel hasn't eradicated them. They're still strong. Netanyahu's a failure. God is great. Israel pledged to destroy Hamas after the attack on October 7, 2023. So all they've done is genocide a bunch of civilians. Netanyahu said that the Israeli military was one step away.
Eliminating Hamas. He repeated that claim in June of 2024. Clearly, Hamas has not been eliminated.
So it's a loss. You lose the so-called war.
Up until the final moments, basically, before the ceasefire agreement took effect. 9 Israeli soldiers were killed last week over the span of just a few days. It's incredibly embarrassing and damning for the Netanyahu administration to have to negotiate with Hamas and then watch Hamas fighters turn over Israeli captives.
And they're in better health than the Palestinian captives. They believe Hamas had a military strength of 40,000 fighters. They said it killed more than 17,000 of them since October 7th. Yeah, but you killed like 45,000 Palestinian civilians, men, women, and a large chunk of children and babies. So Israel's military lists details for only 8,500 armed fatalities. So, very weird.
The U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, said that Hamas has been able to recruit almost as many new fighters as it has lost during the course of the war.
Well, yeah, because when you do a genocide, you incentivize rebellion even more. So, while I'm not a big Hamas defender of all their bad actions, I do believe that Palestinians deserve some sort of government, some sort of leadership, and some sort of military to defend them from, a genocide.
So clearly they are still operational as a fighting force.
There you go.
They're obviously still operational as a government administration, because they are the ones negotiating the ceasefire terms, and they are the ones organizing the transfer of Israeli captives, and they are the ones that are going to be administering Gaza in the coming phase.
In the occupied West Bank, analysts say support for Hamas has increased. I don't even know if that's good or bad. As Palestinians grow frustrated with the Palestinian Authority, which we know is the right hand of Israel, its failure to stop Israel's occupation from advancing. Yeah, I mean, it's Israel in disguise.
Hamas, I think they're going to sell this, certainly they're going to try to sell this to the Palestinian people as a victory.
Sure.
And if the scenes are any indication, there are many Palestinians who already feel that way.
And that's a pretty fair assumption to understand there. Now, this next article here from Zeteo is really exciting. It says, we cannot be worked into acceptance of this brutal violence. Fatima Bhutto meets Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on Palestine, turned internet idol. Of course, we've covered her in a lot of videos. She has become a reluctant chronicler of genocide. So it happened almost overnight. In late 2023, Francesca Albanese, she is a reporter on the occupied Palestinian territories, international law expert and writer, was catapulted to the world stage when she simultaneously became, in her own words, a reluctant chronicler of genocide. An internet idol to her many admirers who study and share her press conferences and viral diplomatic interventions, and a Hamas apologist, quote unquote, according to right-wing Zionists who stalk her every move. It's really crazy. So apparently, it says here she laughs easily and radiates warmth and good humor. She seems like the coolest person. I would really also love to interview her. I think that'd be super fun, and just very informative. She says, I have this device of hope, as we say in Italian. Yes, there are ideological enemies, but the moment people start engaging with me, I see that it's hard for them to hate me. I tend to elicit sympathy face to face instead of hate, and this is something that the haters hate. Our first Zoom call opens with her familiar face, which I've spent more than the last 15 months watching on television, social media, and streamed UN meetings. Same. Albanese has spent her first week off in months. That's crazy. She went on a trip to Albania with her family last summer, but that doesn't really count as she spent hours in the evening preparing a submission to the International Criminal Court. There you go. Today she's in Valle de Costa in Italy, up in the mountains and enjoying the euphoria of time with her family. It's been beautiful not to watch the news, she exhales. She is wearing her trademark thick black-rimmed glasses, her salt and pepper hair, perfectly disheveled, and colorful earrings that look like a red poppy in bloom. There you go. I think we'll kind of skip some of the other stuff. She speaks 5 languages: Italian, French, Spanish, English, and Bahasa Indonesian, 6 if you consider Arabic, which Albanese doesn't. Okay. She studied it, but doesn't consider herself fluent in it anymore. Trained yoga teacher. Man, she's so cool. Get out of the way. She grew up in a socialist home where her father often spoke about politics and foreign policy, was discussed during family meals, a nuclear scene that she now replicates with her own family. That's super cool. When she began studying law, Albanese didn't intend to focus on Palestine. She was doing her master's at the School of Oriental and African Studies in London that the question of Palestine illuminated itself to Albanese. She understood that Palestine had to be advocated for on the grounds of international law, not just street activism. She didn't have the impulse of the humanitarian, at least not fully. Rather, it was a profound sense of outrage in the face of protracted injustice that turned her onto the path of Palestinian advocacy. So the sign says, defend free speech on Palestine, racism, genocide, Muslims, students, collective action to end, prevent. Collective action will end, prevent. Okay. No. I've lived it, she says in her characteristic staccato, and I've studied it primarily through the experience of Palestinian refugees. And when you do that, you cannot escape the Nakba. You cannot escape the reality that Palestinians are, first and foremost, Nakba survivors. It's unmissable, and because of that, I'm brought to challenge the mainstream narrative that dominates the debate, that of a conflict, beyond which, if Albanese is a believer in anything, it's the idea of justice. It comes up again and again in conversation, and she speaks of justice and international law as its guarantor with the fervor of a believer. The same way the faithful revere their prophets. That international law exists and has simultaneously been betrayed over and over again in the name of an ideology and at the expense of the rights of the Palestinians. Albanese shakes her head. It's something that I cannot stand. When she was 33, she moved to Jerusalem to work in UNRWA's Department of Legal Affairs. She had visited the ancient city for the first time the previous year in 2009. It would be where Albanese and her husband lived before they were married in Stromboli and their first child was conceived. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Trying to find what I was looking for here. She says, to meet neutrality regulations, everything had to be so depoliticized, from the agency to the plight of the Palestinians. After 3 years there, Albanese was out of steam from dealing with the maze of depoliticized politics. She left towards the end of 2012, right when the Gaza war of that year had begun, and thought that she was done with Palestine. I didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore, she recounts, shaking her head. She was depressed and exhausted, and then Israel's 2014 assault on Gaza began, and of course, you can read more if you subscribe to Zateo, which I'm actually really considering, because I love all their podcasts. I love We're Not Kidding. I love listening to Mehdi Unfiltered, and I really love a lot of the articles from Prem Thakur, although Fatima here has done a really good article, and I like I like that they're able to make some money off of it. Next, Zateo kind of put out this little slideshow here, or whatever you want to call it. This week in Democracy. New series from Zateo documenting the authoritarianism of the Trump presidency. So here's what we got, all right? Monday, January 20th. Trump pardoned more than 1,200 convicted January 6 rioters, including the leader of the Proud Boys. He also directed the DOJ to drop 300 pending cases related to the 2021 insurrection. So that's setting a bunch of criminals and treasonous felons free. Tuesday, January 21st. Trump permitted ICE officials to arrest people in and near churches and schools, which were always considered, breaking a 2011 policy that prevented the agency from conducting enforcement actions in sensitive areas. So not only were those considered sensitive areas, but they were considered areas of sanctuary, where, the church is a place for religion and for peace and for prayer. And it's not for ICE to come in there kicking down doors and pointing guns at priests and whatever, that type of activity. But now all bets are off at this point. So January 22nd, Trump DOJ issued a memo telling legal service providers to stop work meant to help immigrants, including assistance at immigration courts and counsel for children. So that's horrible. January 23rd, Representative Andy Ogles, we covered this, Republican from Tennessee, introduced a resolution in the House to amend the Constitution, the 22nd Amendment, to allow Trump to serve a third term, which would technically allow any president, which means Obama 2028, I guess. Okay. January 24th, Trump threatened to withhold wildfire aid from California unless the state introduces voter ID requirements and makes changes to their water policy. That's freaking crazy. And of course, you can always subscribe to Zateo. I think that's a super, super good idea. They've been a really good source and a beacon of truth. And, that has been a way to sort of separate from the mainstream media. And I think Mehdi Hassan and the group of journalists surrounding him have been able to just get right to the facts and right to the heart of the issue and not necessarily worship one side or the other. This next story, might be considered anecdotal, but it really speaks to Trump's changes on insulin in America. Essentially, insulin under Biden's presidency was down to $35 a month. And this is Alex Smith. He died this year at age 26 because he couldn't afford insulin in America. He made $35,000 a year as a restaurant manager and couldn't afford his $450 a month health insurance with a $7,600 out-of-pocket deductible. The insulin he needed for diabetes was $1,300 a month. When he turned 26 and was kicked off his mom's insurance, he started rationing his life-saving insulin. He died a month later. All this in the richest country in the world. I mean, it speaks to the idea that we need some sort of healthcare reform in this country. And I know we've already done the Obamacare thing, and that was a huge step forward. But we need something that's like a single-payer, Medicare for all type of option here. And, we need to quit. Basically what Trump did was allowed them to pharmaceutical companies to be able to sell insulin at whatever price they want. Now, it goes from 35 to just being ridiculosity here. And this has been a problem under everybody's presidency. There's always been people dying because they can't afford insulin or they can't afford the cancer drugs or treatment or whatever it may be. It's an ongoing problem that the country just pretends that we can't agree on or can't seem to find a solution, can't seem to find a way to figure it out. All right, next, we're going to talk more about how Israel has allowed aid delivery to schools, sheltering hundreds in northern Gaza, and then set fire to them. Now, some of these clips we've looked at before, but it's going to be in comparison with new ones. Yeah. So this is November 13th. We've seen that. We've seen where they've come in and burned the school and burned the aid. That's Beit Hanun. The next day, soldiers raided and burned the shelters where the aid was delivered. Killed 24 people, set fire to aid packages, and forced men to strip. Israel has misled the world into believing it's providing aid, establishing field hospitals, and expanding humanitarian areas. And instead, it has bombed the designated safe zones, killing and wounding a large number of people. Around 7,500 Palestinians have been sheltering in Beit Hanun for over 40 days. Thousands have fled south, many are still trapped in their homes. The city has no fully functioning hospitals, and rescue workers had to suspend operations weeks ago. This wasn't the first time Israel has attacked areas where aid was delivered. October 31st, Israeli airstrike targeted the third floor of Kamal Adwan Hospital, which we covered. Even the screenshot. Even that screenshot we've seen. And Hossam Abu Safia, currently in prison now. Israel's attacks on Gaza have killed over 43,700 Palestinians since October 2023. Now, I think it's also important that we see drone footage here showing large crowds of displaced Palestinians heading to northern Gaza. So we've been looking at various perspectives of this as they were shot at and taking cover, but this is now them, crossing the bridges and heading north. They were allowed in after Israel and Hamas agreed on the release of 6 more captives. Israeli forces withdrew from the Netzarim corridor, which is what we've been covering most of today, as thousands of Palestinians made their way down Gaza's main roads. They carried whatever they could with them to restart their lives. A chair, oh boy, and all the bags, all their, rugs, blankets, belongings, jackets, animals and birds, all.
So we see some families who threw their stuff and who, on the ground we can see some clothes, some tents. Here we thought we'd find this family. They abandoned their clothes.
Yeah, some people had to abandon their stuff. Because you can't carry it. It's too heavy, it's slowing you down.
The heavy burden
you see them pulling wheelchairs and everything. Around 650,000 Palestinians were displaced from the north during Israel's 15-month war on Gaza. So, maybe we'll hear more from, Bisan and Hossam Shabbat, because I believe they live up in the north, and so maybe we'll see them returning home. But I don't know. That I think people need to see that perspective of, a lot were killed. There's more that are displaced, and they shouldn't be forced to flee their country. Their country. They were here first. And, then the Israelis came and took over the land violently, and, that's where it goes. That's where it leads. Now, this one's kind of heartbreaking. This is a video that someone's done. My home in Gaza before and after. So this is obviously before. Just see them opening the window, and then after it's like the window's shattered. I want to go back because you don't really it all. This is all cut very quickly, but yeah, like broken window, and like there used to be a building across the street. Now there's nothing, right? Like there were stoves, there was spices. The whole kitchen is just completely destroyed. The living room, nothing but rubble. The view from the balcony, all the plants, no buildings. Oh man, that looks delicious. Look at that. Oh my God. And just now it's just rubble, dude. I mean, that perspective is so important, because it's like mainstream media doesn't show you any of this. Who's going to show you a comparison? You know, who has access to the videos of their home, you know, when everything was nice and neat, and then their home when everything gets bombed and IDF comes in there and like steals your stuff and you know, plays video games on your TV and wears, you know, women's lingerie, you know, from your drawers or whatever, you know. It's absolutely insane to me. And I don't know, it's a comparison that people need to see, and I think it's very important. Now, this next video is about Israeli weapons in Gaza and how they release metal tubes designed to kill. These come from the missiles. And you can see these tungsten cubes. Not possible for this to be part of shrapnel. This is designed like this, so it can cut through and destroy. Doctors operating in Gaza said they found this metal cube inside a Palestinian patient. Dr. Mohammed Tahir is a UK doctor volunteering to save Palestinians in Gaza.
The last case we just did was a young man who was the subject of an explosive injury. He had penetrating trauma to his chest, and he had a paralyzed right arm. I suspected that he had a brachial plexus injury. But actually I was quite shocked when I found that a single cube-like structure had penetrated the skin, cut through what we call the upper trunk, and then also the lower trunk, and then lodged itself in the skin of his back. And this has left him with paralysis in his right arm, which probably will be permanent because of the nature of the condition. Despite our best efforts. So these cubes that are used are perfectly formed cubes. They're made of tungsten, and they are built into weapons that actually are designed to explode and cause maximum damage indiscriminately. And so something so very small can in fact kill you, because in his case it was millimeters from his main artery. And if he was in Jabalia, if he was in the street in the middle of the night, if he was at home and no access to an ambulance, he would have died. And we know that this is the case for many people. And many reports of the use of these weapons, and that they are still used today, is a war crime in my opinion.
I agree. Carry out tungsten cubes during its genocide in Gaza, millimeters in size, but over 20 meters, shredding metal and flesh. Thousands of them can be carried in Israeli drone missiles. Oof. Since at least 2008. They leave minimal entry wounds but cause massive damage to internal organs. Doctors say fragmentation weapons pierce blood vessels. Hang on. Nerves, and are a major cause of amputations, which we've seen a lot of amputated children. And there you go. I mean, literally a baby getting hit with these fragments. 22,500 Palestinians with life-changing injuries. Jesus. We have a statement from Hamas in response to Trump calling on Egypt and Jordan to accept all the Palestinian refugees. They say, in response to this, the call to transfer Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Egypt and Jordan, the Islamic resistance movement Hamas affirms the following. The Palestinian people who have stood steadfast in the most heinous acts of genocide in modern times carried out by the fascist Zionist occupation army have refused to surrender to the crimes of forced displacement, particularly in the northern Gaza Strip. Our people categorically reject any plans for their expulsion and displacement from their land. We call on the U.S. administration to cease these proposals, which align with Israeli plans to directly contradict the rights and free will of our people. Instead, the U.S. should work towards empowering the Palestinian people to achieve their freedom, establish their independent state with Jerusalem as its capital, and exert pressure on the criminal occupation to expedite the reconstruction of what was destroyed during this brutal war on the Gaza Strip, restoring normal life to the area. We also call on Arab and Islamic countries, especially our brothers in Egypt and Jordan, to reaffirm their steadfast positions in rejecting displacement and expulsion, which I believe they have. We urge them to provide all forms of support to our people, strengthen their resilience and steadfastness on their land, and work to remove the effects of the fascist aggression inflicted upon the Gaza Strip. Interesting statement, and I mean, it really is pretty straightforward, and I don't know if it speaks to the idea. I mean, I think there's a lot of Israeli officials that need to be tried and arrested and imprisoned for, this genocide. And I even think there might even be U.S. officials that should be liable for this as well. But I don't know if I see the independent Palestinian state or the Jerusalem being their capital. I don't know. I don't see them dismantling the settlements and, connecting all that land and these two separate countries being able to negotiate with each other and get along. I still think the Zionist Jewish state is still going to be like, no, this is a Jews only country. Like, if you come in, or they possibly won't even let you in. I don't know. It could be incredibly racist in that way as well. I don't know. Difficult situation, but we'll see what happens. It's just an interesting statement. This is another journalist in Gaza, North Gaza, chronicling the walk.
Going home today.
He's really excited.
Time to already reach this area. Everyone's walking. People are barely holding backpacks, and even me, I'm carrying everything I want in this backpack.
And your whole life in a backpack.
The moment I have been waiting since the day I got displaced from the Gaza City. And it's not only me, it's everyone else here. Everyone is going home today. We know it's going to be a very long journey, but we don't care. As long as we're going to reach home, that's all we want. We have been walking for the past 3 hours, and we finally made it to Netzarim. Let me show you. This is
which is where the gunfire
Israeli
breaks out.
Soldiers and Israeli forces were stationed in this area. Here was an Israeli checkpoint banning Palestinians to go back and back north or back south. But as you see, Palestinians are still on the move. We're talking about 7-kilometer journey. Palestinians are holding their luggage on their backs. We see children, we see mothers. It's a very tiring journey and very hectic. This is one of the main roads that connects.
I told you, they bulldozed the roads on their way out.
This is how the Israeli forces completely destroy it, and it's definitely making it harder for
Hard to walk on, impossible to drive on.
Walking for almost 6 hours, and finally I'm almost home. This is the street of my house.
Wow.
Just like every single Palestinian who was displaced, every single time I ask someone, what is the first thing you're going to do when you go back north or to the Gaza City, the first thing they say is, we're going to go see our house. And here I am, a couple of minutes away, finally, after 15 months.
That's all they want, man. It's just to get home. See what their home looks like. Just rubble. You can take a few of my belongings. This is supposed to be my room. That's my jacket. That's literally all she has to look forward to. It's insane, but I love her like happiness and her excitement to get home, and yeah, just seeing that like your jacket that you kind of thought you'd never see again when you fled your home is like, that's a moving and powerful experience, not to be discounted. Now this is insane. This GOP congressman says that kids should just go get a job.
Right now with this freeze,
vulnerable populations could be directly impacted. And so my question to you, just to follow up with you, would you support getting rid of school lunch for vulnerable kids and breakfast and Head Start, for example, and getting rid of childhood cancer research? Do you support that, and what do you say to your
because Trump
constituents?
enacted
I want to
that.
follow up on that question too, because I didn't hear an answer from you.
When you talk about school lunches, hey, I worked my way through high school. I don't know
Okay.
about you, but I worked since I was, before I was even 13 years old. I was picking berries in the field before we had child labor laws that precluded
Okay,
that.
dude.
I was a paper boy.
Not everyone does
when I was
that.
in high school, I worked my entire way through. You're telling me that kids who stay at home instead of going to work at Burger King.
Kids that stay at home, what are you talking about? What age of kids are we talking about that should be like working at Burger King or picking strawberries in this guy's imagination?
McDonald's during the summer should stay at home and get their free lunch.
Look at the look on her face.
We need to have a
She looks so puzzled.
Think about where kids need to actually be.
I would say
Kids are at school all
necessarily
freaking
a
day.
Assessment of all of the kids. So you would say all the kids in your district who use the free lunch, for example, or breakfast, they're all just
Free lunch might be the only meal kids get all
I
day.
just want to clarify because that seems like what you were trying
It's
to
very
do.
important.
This gives us a chance, though, to see where is the money really being spent.
Oh.
Who can actually go and actually produce their own income? Who can
Yeah.
actually go out there and do something that makes them have value and work skills for the future? I mean, how many people got their start in fast food restaurants when they were kids?
Okay.
Versus
When
just
I was
putting
like 15
a blanket
maybe.
rule that gives all kids lunches in high school who are capable of going out and actually getting a job and doing something that makes them have value, thinking about their future instead of thinking about how they're going to sponge out the government when they don't need to.
Sure, maybe in high school, but like I think this guy's like super overprivileged, and like most Republicans, he considers his experience to be the only experience, the paramount experience. There's no empathy, there's no like putting yourself in anyone else's shoes or understanding that like maybe there are other kids that can't afford that, and maybe they're too young and they can't work, they can't get a job. And like, who says they need to have to get a job? They need to be focused on school. They need to be focused on learning, and they spend most of their day in school. So, I mean, there is no time for a job to waste money on overpriced lunches.
But a lot of these kids aren't even of like working age.
Yeah.
They're young kids, and as you well
I
know,
get
and
that.
also some of
Oh,
the
I get that.
kids at Head Start, they're like 5 and under.
Absolute freaking moron, dude. All right, let's talk about DeepSeek, a new AI platform from China, which is open source. And I want to show you some of Hassan's coverage on this particular topic.
Over $1 trillion has been wiped from the stock market today. NVIDIA
That's
has now
insane.
raised more than $600 billion of its own market cap. This exceeds the previous record of the biggest one-day drop in a stock history, which was when Meta stock dropped by $251 billion.
That's a new record.
Feels like
600
the Sputnik
billion.
moment for the AI race, where China is really stepping in, and to have the Chinese actually open sourcing it, meaning that is going to be what goes around.
I'm at a major tech company. I've been having emergency meetings all day over this, acting like I'm not a card-carrying communist. Even the public crowd is turning on, but the CCP crowd pretty harshly. I'm watching years of anti-China conditioning melt away in real time. Reddit AI subs are all pro-China now. I mean, it's time for this, right? We got to do it, right? I mean, come on.
Oh my god, dude.
Oh
no. Red sun in the sky. Oh, that's a meme, dude. That's crazy that he knows it word for word. But I think, yeah, the important part is that NVIDIA has lost over 600 billion. OpenAI, and it's like insanely high like subscription prices. And then DeepSeek is coming in. It's like $1, a couple dollars a month or something like that. And the free version even gets you like really far. And it's open source, which means you can take a look at what's under the hood and you can modify it and change it and understand it and stuff like that. Whereas, you know, OpenAI's Chat GPT, they don't let you do any of that. They just make you pay massive fees to get access to something that, I mean, literally Trump just gave like $500 billion to OpenAI to expand AI resources even further, which is just absolutely insane. The complete waste of money that our government and, big tech has been doing here. And, I'm all for cool technological stuff and advances, but AI has mostly been a hindrance so far. I think at some point it'll be like a thing where it'll help people do the mundane tasks that we don't want to do. But until then, it's literally stealing from artists and, just stealing our voice and causing a lot of fake news and outrage. Okay, so this next video is Andre. We've been watching a lot of his videos on TikTok of the West Bank. So this is how they check your ID at gunpoint usually.
Hates me. Every single dime he drives.
And they search your car.
Yeah,
they take pictures of you.
Anyone, but certainly not Jews with Israeli citizenship, to be standing in solidarity with Palestinians. And
Sam, where are we?
We're in Al Khair in Masafriyata, where after doing protective presence activism for about 5 years, I recently decided
he booped the goat.
Move here full time. I grew up being told that going into any sort of Palestinian community would be dangerous, that I would get attacked or killed on the spot, and now I live here, and whenever I face any sort of violence, it's not from Palestinians, it's from soldiers and settlers, and there's been
It's from soldiers and settlers. So he's been told these Zionist lies his whole life, and it's really interesting hearing it from an Israeli perspective, but obviously he is pro-Palestine. He sees what's wrong.
To have someone there to document and film and de-escalate is very important. We need as many people documenting what's happening as possible. I moved here. You can too. Reach out to me, to groups like ISM or Fuzza. Come to the ground, see for yourself, and help show the world what's happening.
Wow. That would be quite the journey. That'd be incredible. I really appreciate what Andre's doing. That is _Andre_X. Andre spelled Andrey. And you can find him on TikTok, and I'll, of course, have all the links down below. Now, for more just scary news in general.
This morning, health officials in Kansas are reporting the largest documented outbreak of tuberculosis in U.S. history. 67 active cases of TB and 2 deaths, with dozens of other asymptomatic cases. TB is one of the world's leading infectious disease killers and is spread person to person by germs that can stay in the air for hours.
You do need prolonged contact with an infected individual. If you briefly come into contact with somebody in the community, it's not very likely that you're going to contract tuberculosis. The exact reason for this specific outbreak is not yet clear.
It comes as the Trump administration changes the way federal health agencies communicate. The Department of Health and Human Services has been told to pause all non-emergency external communications until they're reviewed and approved by a presidential appointee.
Information is the lifeblood of public health. It's how we respond to outbreaks, how we respond to public health crises. And stopping that, I think, is unjustifiable, and I'd like to see that change very quickly.
The new rules on communications are causing concern after the U.S. detected a different, more rare strain of bird flu in California. A farm there reportedly forced to destroy nearly 119,000 birds.
Completely defunded
67 human cases of bird
all
flu
the
in
healthcare
US,
stuff.
1 death. There's been no confirmed
FDA,
person-to-person
NIH.
spread.
When people have symptoms and get tested, we can identify if they have bird flu, but I
Shut it all
think
down.
there are probably dozens, if not hundreds of cases out there that we have missed.
Sources say a CDC report on bird flu was not released last week because of that pause on communication from health agencies.
No communications from the CDC, any of that.
Experts say this outbreak is not something the public should be immediately alarmed about, saying TB is treatable.
I don't know. This is kind of how COVID started.
New York.
We pretty much turned off all the notifications, and then we got surprised, Someone in the comment, everyone's talking about, are we vaccinated? Some are vaccinated, some are not. I think it's also that TB is like rarely brought into the country, and usually it's the migrants that are tested for it. And I don't know. It's just insane that we're at this point where like all these things that we thought we'd never experience again, all these things that we kind of thought we defeated with all the vaccine misinformation. It's really led to a lot of these
this morning health officials
things coming back to bite us. It's pretty wild. Let's see. We have next here. This is Caitlin Collins and J.D. Vance.
But you can't police people for being anti-Israel or pro-Israel.
Oh, it's so quiet.
You can't police people for violating the law. We have seen some of that with some of these protests.
Okay, so you agree that people who break in and vandalize a building should be prosecuted?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm just checking because
People that break in and vandalize a building should be prosecuted.
On January 6th.
Oh, January 6th!
Impeding an official proceeding.
Yep.
Breaking into a building that they weren't allowed to be in and vandalizing the Capitol.
Yep. All that bullshit, and he just got real quiet at the end. It's just like, dude, the slam dunk that she hit him with, you know? CNN doesn't always have the best stuff, but, like, that was pretty good. Someone said, how could he not see that coming? Walked right into that one. She's trying so hard not to laugh directly in his face. The setup was so obvious. OMG, she got him. Show the whole clip. What did he say to that? Someone said, it doesn't matter. Okay. That's pretty crazy. I've seen the whole video and it looks the same either way. That's pretty crazy. Man, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. There you go. Now, I want to preface this next clip. You're going to hear the words Palestine never existed, but this is a pro-Palestine content here, so I don't want you to become alarmed and say, oh my God, Aaron's gone Zionist, okay? I'm not accepting anything from AIPAC, okay? Never have, never will. But Lauren Dubois here, she has a TikTok here, the Lauren Dubois, and she has some great responses for people in your life that, you know, listen to this on the radio, and she has some tips. She has several videos about how to reply to, like, Zionists and Palestinian haters and genocide promoters.
Palestine never existed. Well, this is just really dumb and embarrassing to say.
Yep.
Palestine has existed for centuries.
There you
the
go.
Ancient Greeks and Romans used the name Palestine. Shakespeare wrote about Palestine in Othello, written in the 1600s. Yep. The founders of Zionism called it Palestine.
Ooh.
The League of Nations, all of the world powers after World War I, they called it Palestine during the British Mandate of Palestine. Like, how do you believe that and just erase centuries of evidence?
Yeah, I'm constantly asked, like, you know, can you produce coins or, like, name a king that has served in Palestine or blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like, yeah, there is currency. I mean, there is all sorts of other proof there. But, yeah, Lauren really does a good job here. She has several videos in this vein, and they're very popular because she really gets to the heart of the issue, and she can explain, you know, what they're saying, what they mean, and she brings, like, some educational value, and she can give you, you know, sort of responses to say in debate of these issues. So yeah, I think it's an important and educational resource. So check her out on TikTok, the LAURENDUBOIS, and absolutely incredible. All right. We have a video that is circulating, and wouldn't you know it, CNN is actually promoting this.
This is on the occasion of Donald Trump's presidency.
IDF soldier
God bless America,
just
God bless
firing
Israel.
rounds in Gaza. It's like a fucking
Celebratory
maniac.
gunfire from an Israeli
War
soldier
criminal.
in Gaza. The video, surfaced on social media, is a clear indicator into the elation that has swept Israel.
Now, they do this all the time. It doesn't matter what it is. We saw them laughing when they were dropping bombs and humming the final countdown or whatever, and we
Polls
see
before
this.
the U.S. election showed a majority of Israelis supported Trump. In his first term, he moved America's embassy to Jerusalem, recognized Israel's sovereignty over the occupied Golan Heights, and cut
which
funding
is stolen
to the
land
UN's
from
Palestinian
Syria.
Aid Agency. The IDF told CNN that the soldiers' actions are severe, do not align
They very
with their
rarely
values,
condemn
and that
things.
he will be disciplined.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he will. Sure he'll probably get promoted. All right, last thing I want to talk about today is that NPR, or National Public Radio, has gathered all the executive orders Trump has signed after 1 week in office, and this is as of today, January 28th, 2025. But it's at 8:27 a.m., so I think he might have done some more, executive actions here. What are some of them? Unleashing American energy, which is just, increasing production on federal lands and waters, whereas Biden restricted some of that stuff. Declaring a national energy emergency, expanding the executive branch's powers available in times of crisis. Some of this stuff sounds good, but when you read the details, and I'm going to include the link to this down below, it'll either be in the description or in the comments, because we have a lot of links to go through today. America First and international environmental agreements, so he's withdrawing the U.S. from the Paris Climate Accord. Unleashing Alaska's extraordinary resource potential, where he will fully avail itself of Alaska's vast lands and resources. And he says, drill, baby, drill. Ending the weaponization of the federal government. He basically uses this as hey, we're not going to be like Biden and go after, people with the DOJ. I don't know. Restoring accountability to policy influencing positions within the federal workforce. So this is interesting. It's reinstating a prior executive order that he signed near the end of his first administration, which reclassified career federal employees into a new category of political appointees, which removes these employees' civil service protections, which insulated them from political pressures so that they may now be fired at will. Yeah, he loves that. Texas loves it too. Holding former government officials accountable for election interference and improper disclosure of sensitive governmental information. So Trump revoked security clearances of dozens of intelligence officials who signed a 2020 letter discrediting a disparaging report about Hunter Biden. This order also revoked security clearance for John Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor, who published a memoir in 2020 about his time in the White House. Also reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit to government service. So this is where he gets rid of DEI. Increases overall efficiency of selecting and recruiting government employees. Ideals based on our American republic without consideration of race, sex, or religion. I in some ways I'm yeah, that's fine. It's good to hire people based on merit, but you do want to make sure that you're not purposefully or accidentally not including other people that have, different opinions, different religions, different race, whatever it may be. But I do think there have been some companies that have hired, just simply to have diversity or to meet that quota, and then they don't do well because, they didn't really look into, well, does this person have experience? Are they willing to be trained? Do they have the degrees needed? Ending radical and wasteful DEI programs. Oh no. Yeah, that's where it gets bad. DEI and environmental justice protections, committees, programs, activities, services, and budgets. He also says defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. So this is the one where he says that there are two sexes, male and female. And he says that you will have to refer to individuals by sex instead of gender identity. It further prohibits the use of federal funds to promote gender ideology. I don't know. Establishing and implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency. So this is Elon Musk coming in to cut government spending, restoring names that honor American greatness. This is where they take like the Gulf of Mexico, and now it's going to be called the Gulf of America. How Alaska's Denali Mountain is now going to be named Mount McKinley again, but like it was named Denali in honor of the natives to that area. Restoring freedom of speech and ending federal censorship. This is like a weird thing where he's like the First Amendment and our commitment to it, and it's like we haven't been able to like say or do certain things. I don't know. It's really weird. I guess we'll see how that pans out, because that sounds a little crazy. First policy directive to the Secretary of State, America First policies, which, you know, that type of stuff always seems to lead to isolationist policies, which end up screwing us over. We tried that before. So, reevaluating and realigning United States foreign aid, 90-day pause on foreign aid, assistance to U.S. allies, blah, blah, blah. Agencies will determine whether to resume, modify, or cease foreign assistance. I would actually like that if that was for Israel, if they were just like, hey, we're just going to pause all this and make sure that you're not continuing a genocide, and you know what, we're going to withhold this crap until you get Palestinian freedom. Of course, we know he's not going to do that. It's not his plan. Wasn't Biden's plan either. Withdrawing the United States from the WHO, which is the World Health Organization. Of course, that's going to screw with the response if we were to have another pandemic or any sort of health outbreak, like, I don't know, TB, bird flu, something like that. Clarifying the military's role in protecting territorial integrity of the United States. I mean, some of this is like bringing them to the U.S. border and, you know, reinstating the drug war, which I would argue that we lost and wasted a lot of money on. Realigning the United States Refugee Admissions Program, which is suspending refugee admissions and applications, protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. So this is the one where he wants to deny citizenship to certain U.S.-born children. This is kind of where he wants to get rid of birthright citizenship, and I believe the courts struck that one down. Securing our borders, joint state and federal effort to cease and prevent future immigration. I guess we just kind of have to see how that goes, but it's probably not going to be great for the people trying to seek asylum or just, you know, looking for a better life here in America. Restoring the death penalty and protecting public safety. I mean, I'm personally anti-death penalty, but I don't know. That's really weird. Protecting American people against invasion. This one is federal agencies enforcing removal orders, criminalizing unauthorized entry into the U.S. It's once again like a bunch of border stuff and getting rid of sanctuary jurisdictions. Designating cartels and other organizations as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists. I mean, that's kind of an interesting, maybe a good thing to really go after the cartels. And I mean, you can really consider them as terrorists. They often do a lot of crazy stuff that terrorists would do, and I just don't see starting another drug war as being like a good way to spend our tax dollars, especially when we know it was proven to be a failure in the past. Protecting the United States from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Application of protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act to TikTok. So this is hitting the 75-day pause button on the law banning TikTok, and he wants to try to find like a 50-50 thing where it's like, oh, maybe Microsoft will buy it, and they'll, 50% run by them, 50% run by, ByteDance, or maybe it'll be a takeover by Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or, any other horrible choice. that would completely ruin the free speech that TikTok has. Initial rescissions of harmful executive orders and actions. This is an order that rescinds 78 executive actions signed by Joe Biden, including several public health regulations. It also revoked an order promoting voter registration and a census order that would clear a path for reshaping election maps, which would be kind of like, hey, let's get rid of like gerrymandering. And it's like, nope, there we are. The president began designating certain transnational organizations as terrorist groups. So Ansar Allah, also known as the Houthis, he wants to call them a foreign terrorist organization. Removing barriers to American leadership in artificial intelligence. He's rescinding Biden's 2023 executive order on AI. And so he wants to develop AI systems, and they're free from ideological bias and engineered social agendas. So he just wants AI to just completely go rogue and do whatever the hell it wants to do, even if it wants to like literally create fake news shows or pretend that there was a bombing in a country where there wasn't a bombing, but like an AI, you know, someone could just create that and post it on Twitter or something. Declassification of records concerning the assassination of JFK, RFK, and Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I see this as a good thing, maybe. I mean, it might cause people to like distrust the government even more, which I'm not like for or against in that sense, but like, would it be nice to know all this? Sure. Strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology. This is about American investment in crypto and the blockchain. And honestly, all that stuff is a pyramid scheme and often used for money laundering. There's a couple good uses of it, but it's so small that, and obviously Trump is not looking for, you know, the good use of crypto. Enforcing the Hyde Amendment. This would rescind. It prohibits the use of federal dollars to cover abortion and related health care, with very limited exceptions. And it would rescind 2 former Joe Biden 2022 executive orders, which sought avenues to expand access to reproductive and emergency health care after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade's right to abortion, which, you know, Democrats should have codified when they had the chance. But they like to use it to hype up voters every 4 to 8 years, right? Emergency measures to provide water resources in California and improve disaster response in certain areas. This is where he threatened California with, you know, if you don't change these things, we're not going to send you aid. Council to assess the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This is the one where he wants to get rid of FEMA, and they're assessing the adequacy of the group, and he wants to actually send money to the states and let the states and federal government coordinate rather than the emergency prepared officials at FEMA. You know, the people that are trained to do this. He wants to do, the next one's the Iron Dome for America. He wants to deploy a next-gen missile defense shield to defend the U.S. against aerial attacks. The defense secretary must submit a plan for that within 60 days. Israel already has the Iron Dome, and we gave them that, you know, weapons and technology for all that. Restoring America's fighting force. This is a Peter Hegseth thing. The U.S. Armed Forces should operate free from any preference based on race or sex, abolishes DEI offices and programs at the Defense Department and Department of Homeland Security. It prohibits promotion of divisive concepts, including that America's founding documents are racist or sexist. Interesting. Prioritizing military excellence and readiness. This order contends that service members with gender dysphoria and those with shifting pronoun usage or use of pronouns that inaccurately reflect an individual's sex are unfit to serve in the military. So that's kind of like, hey, we don't want gay, trans, or women to serve. I don't know. That one's going to be a real problem, and I think that's really stupid. reinstating service members discharged under the military's COVID-19 vaccination mandate. Listen, the military has always mandated that we can't have our soldiers getting sick when they're at war. They can't, get TB or malaria or, COVID-19. Like, if our soldiers get sick, that's going to spread through the ranks like wildfire. So the order permits reinstatement of service members who were discharged for refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccine during the pandemic. Those service members would return to their former rank and receive full back pay benefits, bonus payments, or compensation. Yeah, talk about like wasting a whole bunch of money on people that just really don't deserve it. Because you know what? The spread of COVID-19 was a real problem. 1 million people died, okay? And that was under Trump's watch. So he can talk about how he did Operation Warp Speed and got the vaccines out quick. His people don't care. They don't trust vaccines, so they actually hate him for that. But this is a huge waste of money, which you would think conservatives conserving, being worried about finances would be worried about. So those are the ones he's done so far. All right, we've caught up. It's kind of insane. But those are the executive orders he has signed after 1 week that so far has been compiled. And I know there's more today. I know there's a whole bunch around like healthcare stuff being shut down and just opening up another, the chance for another pandemic to swoop in and for us to have like no healthcare coordination and just to stop all research into cancer, stuff as we talked about earlier in the show today. Listen, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, find us on TikTok, Twitter, and Blue Sky. Links are in the description down below. Follow us everywhere. Spread these videos. I mean, we need this stuff to get out there. So I want to thank you for your support. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.